Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Tonight, author M.G Stephens is here, and I'll tell you, she is competing with the fedora-wearing John Hudson for best hat of the night. You be the judge later on, but I'm telling you, she's got game going on right now. Before we bring her in, let's say hello to everyone in the chat room tonight. Simon in the gold medal position, and B taking home the silver. We have Nightmare bronze medal tonight. John Swan, Mennonite Abe. Good to see you guys. Grand Paul Holland, thank you for coming on in. The gorgeous Kathy Evans, Obie Flett, Jack Clark. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining us on this Monday night. Parkway, National Memorial. Luscious Jules, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Awesome Ann Palmer, nice to have you here. Black Dragon, the Black Dragon, one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show. Veterans, you always have a safe place here in our chat room. Yay! Hey, look who it is. It's gorgeous Manitoba Becky. Yes, they call her the Wheat Queen. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Stunning Samantha Hazelwood Gray, nice to see you. Mr. Black Dragon, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. I very much appreciate your love and support of SOR. Thank you so much. All right, continuing on. Eris Bana, welcome back. Larry Compton, good to see you again. Our favorite trucker, Andrew, he's out on the road. Blast that horn for us, Andrew, if you don't mind. We'd appreciate it. The lovely Angela Krause has returned. The gorgeous Jessica McCreary is here. Roy the boy, how are you, man? Good to have you here. And Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby, everyone. You cannot miss him. There he is. All right, who's going to be signing autographs on the right tonight? 405er? Yeah, 405er is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio. To the right of the studio. Brown Dwarf, nice to have you here. Wes H. Millennium, thanks for coming on in. Politically Incorrect, good to see you back. Stu Gerson, always a pleasure. Mr. Lurksalot, thank you for coming on in. The gorgeous Aunt Edna, Richard Elmore, and Steve Wolf, all here at the same time. And who else? Nosferatu, nice to have you here. It's been a while, for sure. Always a pleasure. The gorgeous Cryptid Huntress, there she is, Jessica Jones. She likes it when people clap for her, so we'll just give her a few of those. Yay. Yay. No Despair Bear, it's been a while seeing you. It's nice to have you back. The dazzling Don Hendrickson, thanks for joining us. Another wonderful veteran here, Surf Jer. Thank you so much for your love and support, man. We always appreciate you here as well. And 2 veterans, 2 super chats. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. D. Cohen from DC, much love to you for coming on in. Cat Chaser, looking awesome tonight. Bobby, what's going on? The original AA Ron, good to have you here. Orb Rubber, welcome to SOR chat. Andy Jones, thank you for coming on in. Noble Patrick, Henry X. Helmut, how you doing, buddy? Nice to have you here. Noodles, what's happening, man? Good to see you. And who else is joining us here? Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. Justin Maynard. Enzo. Boom to you, gorgeous Bama. How you doing? And the fedora-wearing John Hudson. Nice to have you here. Nilbog Lort. Always a pleasure. Let's start the radio side because we kind of need that to happen here. Hold on. What is that? Hey, Dave, is that an underpants gnome in the back? I hope not. Fapster, the gorgeous Jenny, how are you? And yeah, M.G. Stephens, our guest here. She's coming up momentarily. I'm going to tell you, Fedora John, you got some game to catch up to tonight. Her Stetson, looking beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, you got some game to catch up on here, buddy. We got about 28 seconds to go here. Jay Killingham, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. And the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget to check out our store. It's got some fantastic swag. I just added a new ball cap on there, a Woo ball cap. War Eagle, Gong Show, Michael Fontaine, how you doing? Fans, I need a favor. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. All of our, you can find all of our stuff on our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, and checking out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show for you tonight. We are getting all paranormal. Author M.G. Stephens talks about her new book, The Boogeyman Chronicles. If the Boogeyman doesn't scare you, I do not know what will, honestly. Then in hour number 3, the Swamp Dweller has a brand new story from the swamp for you. Fedora John will be back with the Unbiased UFO report. Shirky Poo has the news. All right, let's move it on here. M.G. Stephens is a neurodivergent medium empath who grew up knowing that she was very different, but not sure in which way. She started experiencing paranormal activity as early as the age of 2. Her mother was also a well-known psychic that worked with detectives and solved cold cases. M.G. struggled, though, to accept her abilities for decades and tried her best to dismiss all the terrifying encounters she was literally having daily. From ghosts to UFOs and unexplained phenomena, M.G. takes you on a chronological telling of every encounter she and her family endured over the last 40-plus years in the Boogeyman Chronicles. M.G. also has a podcast of the same name where she delves into the concept of paranormal PTSD. I am pumped up for this one, and I love the hat.
Thank you.
Wait, welcome so much to Spaced Out Radio. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I am doing great. You know, I mean, here you've had a lifetime of Woo. I'm going on year 11 of Woo. You know, I mean, there's a lot of Woo out there, you know,
Yeah.
if we just get it going. But for our audience, let's learn a little bit about you. I mean, you come from a family that has been studying and living with this type of phenomena for your entire life. It's a different way to grow up than what most people out there have to grow up. I mean, how did you enjoy growing up in knowing that weird stuff was all around?
I didn't. I had a very hard childhood, very hard upbringing. Growing up in abusive homes as well. That's not easy. And then growing up neurodivergent, where I'm autistic and I have ADHD. And no one knew that, and that was very hard, it was a very difficult upbringing, especially when you have this other antenna that's always up, and, you're always picking up on stuff, and it was difficult. It was difficult. Life is already difficult. Childhood is already difficult. And then, here I am neurodivergent. I didn't know it. No one else did. So that's difficult. And then I had another layer of difficulty, which was being bullied by the paranormal, by whatever was around.
Oh, I mean, for you, not knowing any different, what's normal for you?
Yeah, I know that's the thing. I grew up thinking I had two trains of thought when I was growing up. When I would have these paranormal encounters, I would think everyone goes through this, right? Hopefully, yeah. Please, so someone tell me that other people are going through this, and yeah, at the same time, I would then go, wait a minute, no, I'm crazy. I'm the only one going through this. So it was not easy. I didn't know what to think.
At what point in your life did you decide that, after the misery of childhood and teenage years, which are the worst? I mean,
Mhm.
they're the worst at times without anything strange, let alone having to throw all of this on your plate and your palate as well. I mean, how did you finally come to accept this, or have you yet?
I've accepted it in stages, in chunks, throughout my life. I didn't really know what was going on until I was, like 12. I started to clue in. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I know stuff, and I see things, and I feel things. And maybe that's, that's what mom used to do. Right. So I kind of, maybe I'm like mom. And then that kind of went into, my teenage years, where I was about 15, and I had become much against my will, kind of became a Christian. And so I kind of was doing the churchy thing, not really, kind of half-heartedly. And then, you can't go to a fundamentalist Christiany churchy sort of environment without hearing about Jesus and demons and devils and, all that stuff. So I started to clue in and realize, wait a minute, this, later on I realized, wait a minute, this whole Christiany world of demons and angels and devils and stuff like that, that's the paranormal. Jesus, doing all these, miracles, that's the paranormal, and so I realized that's just it's another branch to the tree. You know what I mean? So when I started to kind of go to church and hear all these sermons about, demons and stuff like that, my mom, she went from being a really powerful, well-known psychic in the area, and then she became, she was a Christian, and she was the one that was doing uh, like deliverances, doing exorcisms on people, and she was ridiculously powerful. I mean, just scary. I mean, this woman was so formidable. And so I saw all this, and I was a part of it, and I, was kind of helping her with it. And people would call us to do clearings because she was so good at it. I don't think I was very good, but she was so good at it. I was good at seeing stuff. I'm good at diagnosing things, so I would, see things. I'd be like, okay, there's something over here, and blah, 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 and she would get rid of it. But yeah, I mean, I started to kind of clue in around 15, and then I got a little older, and I started to, and then I started to realize, oh, I'm one of those, because back then people throw around the label medium, empath, sensitive, psychic, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? They throw around these labels nowadays so easily, but when I was growing up, we didn't hear that kind of stuff. So um, it wasn't until much later that I was like, oh, I'm a medium and an empath, and I know stuff and I can see things. Okay. And then it just can be kind of, and then I had to have my own apartment here in Los Angeles back in 2012, 2013. That was haunted. And I then had to really come to terms with the fact that, I can see things, or things are attracted to me, you know.
For you, though, have you ever accepted, or have you ever had a peaceful night's sleep?
I have, yeah, I have had a peaceful night's sleep. The demons don't come out every single night, but when I was a kid, it all depended on where I was. If I was with my mom, there was a certain level of paranormal that would kind of come in. When I was with my dad and his wives, different, he's married 6 times. So when I was, different places, it all depends on what was there. Sometimes it was real malevolent, and I did not get any sleep when I was a kid in those places.
I want to know, I mean, you have been documenting the occurrences and the happenings of your family throughout your own history, 40 plus years.
Mhm.
Why did you feel it necessary to write a book about all of these? What was that for?
Well, that's another long explanation. So I've really started listening the last few years, started listening to paranormal podcast, and I started hearing a lot of people the minute they got on to the podcast, they'd be like, okay, before I tell my story, I'm not crazy. I'm not, I know what I saw. And they had to give this lengthy explanation as to that they weren't crazy. And I just got, I was, God, that's so sad that they have to constantly say this, that every, like almost every person had to sit there and say, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. And I'm like, gosh, and so I really, it became a kind of a burden on my heart that I wanted to do, a podcast of my own and kind of normalize paranormal encounters. You know, I mean, at least I think everyone has at least one unexplainable, weird paranormal encounter. You know what I mean? You don't have to see Bigfoot right in your face to be, unexplainable or, that sort of thing. So I really think that we need to, and thank God for the Tic Tac video, because that started to get the hardcore skeptic started to kind of come around. So it's like that. I really hope that in 10 years talking about the paranormal is not going to have that giggle factor to it. That's what Terry Lovelace, he was a guest on my show, and that's what he called it the giggle factor, and I'm like, that's exactly it. You know what I mean? So I it really became a burden on my heart to give people a safe space to talk about their paranormal encounters and not worry about being judged, and just say, yeah, we believe you. We you don't have to give us an explanation of your mental health. That's not necessary. I don't care about that. So I then started to kind of realize that nobody really knew my encounters. And so they didn't know who I was. They didn't know about my encounters. And I found myself kind of jumping in when my guests were talking. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I went through that, or oh yeah, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, gosh, I can't keep doing that. And I thought, well, I kind of need to get my own story out there. And so that's why I wrote my own book. It was just like, and then once I sat down, because a lot of this stuff I kind of buried, and I kind of was like, I didn't really think about it. And when I, on the occasion that I would tell my story to people, a snippet, they would be like, oh my gosh, you have to write a book. You have to write a book. And I'm like, please, no one cares. And then when I started to realize that I had so many encounters, I thought, holy crap, I've had 40 plus years of experiences, plus my dad's, plus my mom's, and my, siblings and everybody, you know what I mean? I realized, oh my gosh, we've really been through it. So I thought, well, I gotta write that book now. I gotta let people know that, you're not crazy. And, I've had a lifetime of paranormal encounters. So, you're one or two paranormal encounters. Trust me, you're not crazy, and it was therapy for me as well. It's therapy for me to sit there and think about all of these things that happened to me, and to kind of come to terms with all of those. So it was a lot of things.
Well, for you, I mean, a lot of people, when they think paranormal encounters are demonic, immediately they think ghosts and anything from the spirit realm. But you are someone who has had ET encounters, UFO encounters. You've kind of run the gamut with everything
Mhm.
that you have gone through. I mean, what do you prefer? Do you prefer ghosts over ETs? Do you prefer it all? Do you wish it would just all go away?
Yeah, I wish it would all just go away. um, yeah, I don't have a favorite boogeyman. It's all bad to me. None of it was good. Um, and two, we got to realize too that the good encounters are also paranormal. You know what I mean? Like that visit from grandma in your dreams that tells you not to go to the meeting, and then all of a sudden there's a car accident or plane accident. You know what I mean? Like that sort of things. Those things are paranormal as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot about how my life would have been if I wasn't so sensitive. And, I don't know. I don't think it would have been any easier, but it definitely wouldn't have had this weird aspect to it.
No, I fully understand
Yeah.
with what you were saying. For you though, I mean, looking at your family, have you is your whole family involved with the phenomena? I know you mentioned earlier your mom is, but your dad, any siblings you may have?
My siblings have had their own encounters. One of my middle sibling, they happened to walk out in their hallway out of their bedroom. They went to the bathroom middle of the night, and there was something very big and bulking, hulking kind of big shadow figure in the hallway of their house. And yeah, that was pretty terrifying for them. I'm not too sure because we're not very close, so I don't know exactly what they've been through, but I do remember that story.
So the fact that this runs the gamut, this is nothing new. I mean, this is Thanksgiving conversation. Hey, what's happened with you? And
Hmm.
what's going on around here?
It's weird. My dad, it's funny because my dad, he doesn't really divulge anything. He doesn't really tell you, and it kind of has to come up, and then he'll mention it. Or if something's really creepy, he'll mention it. He'll be like, there's something really weird just happened, and he'll tell me. But yeah, I mean, you have to pull things out of my dad. So yeah, that's it. It's not so much. It's not so freely talked about. And my mom, yeah, I mean, we talked about it more than my dad. But again, my dad, you have to kind of pull things out of him. So.
All right. Well, I want to learn about you here, okay? So go back to your earliest encounter that you had. In your bio, it said you started having paranormal experiences at 2 years old. I'm still trying to figure out what my thumb is at 2 years old. Okay. And I don't remember anything that's 2 years old. So take us through that if you don't mind.
I had a ridiculously good memory for weird things when I was a kid. I remember when my parents split up pretty soon after I was born, and I remember my dad moved into this bachelor pad, and it had the most hideous. And I was barely 2 years old, and I still remember the hideous shag carpeting because it was the '70s. It's just like so. Yeah, yeah. I had this memory because it was just kind of burned into my brain, but I remember being a little kid. I don't know how old I was exactly because I was able to stand up and hold on to the side of the crib. So I'm in my crib and I'm holding on and I'm standing up. And I remember looking up and I could see something floating. Don't know what. I don't remember that part, but I remember being the thing floating, looking down at me. I could see the entire scene. I could see me standing in the crib. I could see the garish '70s wallpaper. I can see my diaper pail. I even described that to my mother. I said, Mom, did my diaper pail, was it like an off-white with like a silvery embossed stamp of a baby's face? And she's like, yeah, how did you know that? And I'm like, I saw it. And so I saw the whole scene. I saw everything. And I then maybe a few months later, or maybe a year or two later, around there, it was Easter time, and I'm on my tricycle, and I'm wearing my little Easter dress, and I got my little Easter basket, and I'm really super cranky. I probably need a nap, and my mom and my middle sibling were there, and they were trying to get me to look for eggs, and I was just cranky as hell. And but I remember the same thing happening. I remember being really disturbed by something floating, but yet I remember looking down and seeing the entire scene, like from a drone perspective. It was so strange, and so for years I had no idea what that was. And I remember, one of my guests on my podcast was Paul Eno, who is a paranormal pioneer, an investigator.
Great guy.
Yeah. He's a lovely guy. I love him to bits, and I didn't know what it was, and he's seen everything. So I was like, Paul, what did I go through? And he was like, don't know. It sounds kind of like what he called a shifting identity point, which is in the multiverse where you kind of split into two. Maybe that was it. I don't know. So there's really no definite, because I wasn't dead. I didn't die. I wasn't astral projecting. I don't know. I don't know what happened at those moments. But yeah, I split into two, I guess. And I saw myself on both ends. I don't know.
Weird.
I know.
Weird.
It's creepy.
Now, out of all the scenarios that you have had throughout your life? And we're going to get into a number of those stories later on. Were they always very dark, or did you have a lot of funny stories as well?
Most of them are dark. Most of them are dark. Most of them are really terrifying, or they were just strange. My mother, I'll tell you a strange one. My mother, back in about 1982 or so, her first grandchild was born. My oldest sibling had a baby, and they lived in California, and we lived in the South on the East Coast. And my mom, she loved kids, and she wanted to be a grandma so bad, and she just, wanted to see her grandchild so bad. And she just really, really wanted to be there. And she was so heartbroken over that. And my mom at this point was going to, psychic development classes, and she was developing her abilities, and she was getting really, really, really good, to the point where her own teacher told her, I can't teach you anything. You surpassed the class. So anyway, mom was really good. Like I said, spiritually formidable. This woman could just do almost anything. It was ridiculous. So I remember she goes to bed one night, really, really, really wishing to be in California so she could see her grandchild. And I remember the next morning, my mom got a phone call from my oldest sibling, and they were like, Mom, you were here. You were here last night. And my mom was standing, I remember standing in the kitchen. She was like, what are you talking about? I've been here the whole time. And my oldest sibling said, no, Mom, you were here. She said, I woke up and you walked into the room. I could see you perfectly. You walked into the room. You checked on the baby, because the crib was at the foot of their bed. You checked on the crib. You checked on me. You checked on my partner. And then you left. You walked out of the room. I saw you perfectly last night, and I was awake. So
weird.
Yeah. So my mother didn't try to ask her. My mom told me the story a million times. She goes, I wasn't even trying. I just went to bed, really wishing, that I could see my grandkid, and then this happens, so.
My goodness. I mean, good for her. I mean, being a grandmother, checking up on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's just freaky. That's just freaky. Yeah. There's nothing, like, no, that's, I don't even know how to put it. I really don't, but we've got about just over a minute to go here. M.G Stephens is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She has a brand new book out called The Boogeyman Chronicles. When we get into this book in the next half hour, I want to know, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about putting your family's history on paper? What do you think? Kind of weird? MG? Are
you asking me?
Yeah.
I thought you were asking your guest. I'm sorry. Or the people on the live chat. I had full permission to share these stories, and I try to protect everyone's identity as much as possible, not putting out names or nothing like that. But I was just, sharing all the stories, because once I started getting into my story, I realized that it kind of covered my mom's stories and then my dad's stories. And I'm like, well, gosh, I got to include all these too. So I'm not exposing anyone or anything. I just had to get their stories out.
Well, I mean, it's got to be a good healing process, and we're going to find out more about the Boogeyman Chronicles, which is the life story of M.G. Stephens living up in a life of paranormal. And I'll tell you, once you've got that much happening in your life, it's a little creepy. It's a little weird. It's a little odd. And we're going to find out some of these stories by M.G. Stephens. You can find her book out on Amazon as we speak. Hey, it's only $4 on Kindle. Go get it. It's worth the read. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. We've got about 5 minutes. I'm just going to go try and find my cough candies here. So I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
All right. You can hang out with the audience. Quickly, hey, EMF, you're unbelievable. Oh, there we go. Lunar Tina, nice to see you. Gorgeous Lara, how are you tonight? Oops, Joe's Bane, you've got aliens. Scowling Greg O'Brien, good to see you. And I'll be right back. Swear I've lost them. Hello, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. Did I miss anybody? Uncle Bones, how you doing? Welcome back. Joshua Benjamin, no, not tonight. Thurston Howell III, thanks for joining us. And who else is here? I think we're caught up. And everybody's loving your hat. All right, we've got about 45 seconds. That was a quick half hour.
Am I on? How long am I on for?
Another 90 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that Fedor John? Oh, no.
Oh, that's Joe. That's Joe. I want to say a big thank you to Black Dragon, Surf Jer with the hat trick, and Vaughn for the awesome super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. We got new swag up in the SOR store, so make sure you check it on out. And we're going to get going here in like 5 seconds, so stay tuned, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to remind everyone that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight, The Boogeyman Chronicles with author M.G. Stephens. You can find her book at Amazon.com. It's, you know what I like about her title? It's just The Boogeyman Chronicles. There's no secondary title with 57 words on there, taking up 98% of the cover of it. I love it. And MG, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's get into your family story here, because this is a chronicle of everything that you guys have been going through. You know, I mean, it started us off with the book. What's the first experience that you could remember?
Well, I mean, that one where, I was split into, two different entities, I guess, two different forms. I mean, it's still to this day, I don't know what that is. And the fact that Paul doesn't know kind of freaked me out too. I was like, please tell me something, So that was like the first experience that I can remember. The second one kind of going into, again, it all depended on where I was. If I was at my mom's place, because she had custody, I lived with her. So if I was at my mom's place, we had a very different kind of paranormal atmosphere, if you will. It wasn't super malicious. It was more curious than anything. And you could feel it come, something would come into the room, and the energy would change, and you'd be like, what, but you had the feeling that it was just curious about you, that it was just watching. My mom encountered quite a few things there, and there was nothing ever terrifying or anything like that. My mom, there was like a wooded area, because there was a canal. We lived on a canal, and we lived in a swampy part of the South, and there was a canal, and there was like a wooded area past our house, past that canal. And you just knew something was watching you. You just got the creeps all the time. So that was that. It was, place. And then when I would go over to my dad's and his second wife's place, she had a condo, and thank you. And she had a condo, and I don't know what the hell to this day, what was in that condo. I kind of want to go back and kind of, kind of suss it out now that I'm older, and I can kind of know, I can kind of differentiate, what things are. So I would love to go back, but I haven't been back in decades. But her condo had something or some things, God only knows what, how many. That place was so evil. I can't even begin to describe it. The minute I walked up to that place, and I was a little kid, I was 2-3 years old. And I just immediately got the creeps, and I didn't know why, because I was just a little kid. Why does that place give me a yucky feeling, And I didn't understand. I had no clue. And the condo was very strangely built. There was like a bottom unit, a top unit, which is where she lived. And then there was like a 2-story section off to, a unit off to the side. And I noticed the whole time I lived there, that bottom, that weird 2-story section off to the side, for some reason, that place was never occupied for very long. It always had a for sale sign, a for rent sign. I mean, it was like every few months, every couple of years. Then it was vacant for the longest time. Nobody could get anyone to stay there. And I would love to find out the history of that place because I think there was something there. The minute you walked past that place, because you had to walk past it in order to get to her place, and you could always feel like something was just glowering at you and wanted you to, go away. And so you have to walk up 2 flights of stairs, going up to my stepmother's condo. I still remember the first encounter that I had that really woke me up. And I was little, I was like 3, 4, maybe. Somebody had, I think it was either her or someone, but they'd give me a little tiny baby doll with a little crib. And they were about the size of a quarter, just little things. And I remember we had to go to a party. It was around Christmas time. And I remember we had to go to a party. So I remember I put the baby to bed, put it in its little crib, and I put all the little things all in order, and everything was all lined up on this one desk. When we came back a few hours later, everything was scattered all over the table. Like someone had just, smashed everything all to bits. And I'm looking at the scene because I know that I left everything in a neat little order. And I'm looking at the scene and I immediately get this feeling that something is standing right beside me going, what are you going to do about it?
Ugh.
And I was like, and I'm a little kid, so I don't know what's going on. I just know I feel something creepy standing next to me. So when I was a little kid, these things that I could feel, couldn't see them, but I could feel them. I just called them monsters because I didn't know what else to call them. I mean, I'm a little kid, you know what I mean? Monsters are bad and these things are bad. So I call them monsters, right? That's what they are. And I remember this thing was just standing there and I could feel it standing there and I could feel it like, it was almost like an older sibling when they break one of your toys and they're like, I dare you to go tell mom. I dare you to go tell dad. And they would just kind of glower in your face. That's the kind of energy it was. It was just like, I'm going to love torturing you. And that's exactly what it did. I mean, every single night I was there, day and night. Whatever these things were, whatever this thing was, whatever it was in this place, it just loved to torture me. And I did not sleep at all, hardly. I mean, I remember going to bed and all night long, I was just tormented. Things were kicking the bed, ripping the covers off, whispering in my ear to where I could feel the breath on my face. Just horrible stuff, pulling my feet with like long fingernails. I could feel that. Just horrible stuff.
Being a psychic empath that you are, did you ever see the creatures that were doing that?
No, that's the thing. That's what drove me nuts. If I could see them, then I could see them. But everything in that place, at least, was invisible. I could not see them. Or maybe I just didn't know how to see them. I didn't know how to try to see them. Maybe, I don't know. But I do remember just being blindsided, I would be in the kitchen, getting ice cream or something, and something would, when someone rushes up to you and you can kind of feel the air, coming at you. It was like that. I felt like I was rushed by a linebacker, you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh my God, and nothing is there. I can't see a thing, but I know something is standing right there. Like when someone stands behind you and you don't see them, but they're there, your neck is starting to tingle and you're like, okay, someone's behind me, and it was kind of like that. It was, I knew something was there, but I could not see it.
Wow. I mean, that had to be very, very traumatic. How old were you at this point when this was happening?
Well, in my stepmother's condo, I went there at around 2, and I finally left there around 8 or 9 years old, and then I went back at 14.
It was over time that these things were torturing you there.
Yeah, it was over like a good decade or so.
Now, at any time, considering the lifestyle you lived at that time, Was anybody trying to tell you, oh, it's just your imagination, it's just night terrors, these things don't exist? Did you have to go through that as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, every night, here I was going to bed and being tormented by something terrified. You go to bed and then something is you can feel something lay down beside you. And it just absolutely terrifying stuff all night long. And so I did, being a little kid, what do? You run to your parents. And so I would run to my dad and his wife and beg them to come stay in the bed with me, because if they were there, nothing much happened. It was nice and quiet and safe, and I actually got a few hours of sleep. And if I at that time I didn't know what else to do, so I would run to get them, and of course I was being a little naughty kid for coming to get them. Why are you coming in? There's nothing here. I don't see anything. There's nothing here. What's wrong with you? And I constantly got yelled at, so I kind of had to brave the night by myself a lot of times, and it was absolutely horrifying.
How did that affect your daily life? I mean, going to school with friends or anything like that?
I learned not to say anything. I just didn't say anything. And this became kind of a being shamed by your own parents, the people that are supposed to protect you. And again, this was the 70s, 80s, early 80s. We didn't have this kind of stuff. We didn't talk about paranormal. This wasn't vernacular. So, and the Warrens at that time, they were the only people really on the scene doing this kind of stuff. And they were considered troops then. So nobody really, talked about this kind of thing. And my dad and his wife constantly told me, look, you're imagining things. You're having a bad dream. Stop being a pest. Stop misbehaving, and I was constantly getting yelled at for running into their room screaming because something was chasing me, or something, touched me in the middle of the night and nothing was there. So it was horrible. And I learned to just internalize and not do anything. And so for many, many years, I didn't say anything. I just endured.
Oh, you poor thing. I mean, did you ever seek help for this on a professional or on a spiritual level?
No.
Why
There
not?
was no one. There was really no one to turn to, and I didn't really know enough about the paranormal to know that I could go to my mom and say, "Mom, there's something bothering me." So I just endured. I just dealt with it.
Man, that I'm feeling your pain here. Growing up, I mean, that had to be very, very tough. What role did Paul Eno make in your life? I mean, he's been on this show about 3-4 times over the years. He's a good friend, good supporter of what we do on Spaced Out Radio. But what did he bring to you?
Well, I mean, he was a guest on my podcast. And I love the guy to bits. He's so sweet. He really is a lovely person. And he shared amazing stories on my podcast. I mean, stuff that just really blows your mind. I mean, he's got so many stories. He's got 50 plus years of experiences, and he's seen it all, really. And so, when he came onto my podcast, I kind of just said, please tell me, what did I go through? That one encounter, those two encounters, I had no idea. So he's a really lovely person. I'm also friends with Keith Johnson and Sandra Johnson from Ghost Hunters. They're just lovely people, and they're always there for me. I mean, every time I'm going through something, there's just such a nice support system.
The reason why I brought up Paul is, I mean, like you said, he's a brilliant mind with over half a century of trying to find answers for his own experiences as well as others. And you know what? Sometimes when we meet somebody that understands what we're going through, we're able to find a little bit more clarity in what is happening to us. Did you find that with Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I asked him what I went through, and just I mentioned in the book that he and his son Ben they've seen so much that they had to kind of like come up with an exhaustive glossary of terms just for the things that they've seen, because they've seen stuff that is not really well documented. You know what I mean, or whatever. they've seen all kinds of stuff. So they had to kind of come up with their own glossary of these, terms of, oh, maybe it's this, and we'll call this that, and blah, 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 And so, just talking to Paul, made me feel better when he was like, yeah, I think what you went through was a shifting identity point. He at least, has something for me. You know what I mean? He at least has, some kind of answer. That's all I wanted. I just wanted someone to say, yeah, you're not crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah, even psychic mediums, even empaths, even people, that have had a lifetime of paranormal encounter still think they're crazy. I mean, there's times when I still feel stuff and I'm like, I'm nuts. Oh, come on. And then something happens. I'm like, okay, so I doubt myself a lot less these days, but yeah, growing up, I was very confused.
You mentioned something there that is very, very powerful for a lot of people out there who are having experiences and don't know where to turn. And that is having somebody who will come in and say, I believe you. Mm-hmm. What did that do for your own soul and your own healing when Paul, told you that?
Well, it's people like that through the years, like I had a really weird encounter when I was about 6 years old. And that's why I got my own podcast, because, I wanted to be there to tell people you're not crazy and, kind of provide that safe space. But I had an encounter when I was like 6 years old where I realized my dad was in law enforcement, and I realized my dad could die. And I started having this reoccurring nightmare for 2 weeks straight. And I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell nobody. And I remember it was the same nightmare every single night, where I was looking at a picture. You remember we had actual pictures to look at instead of on our phone. And I was looking at this picture, and it had my dad's tombstone on it with his name, and really thick green grass around this tombstone. Same dream every single night. And I didn't tell a soul. I thought, no, people are going to laugh at me. They're going to think I'm stupid. So I didn't say anything. But every single night I had this nightmare. And I would wake up in a cold sweat and, gasping for air, like, oh my God, completely tormented. Finally, after about 2 weeks of this, my mother, I didn't tell her nothing now. This is how good she was. But I was sitting there at the dinner table, and she was on the other end, and I was on this end, and she looked at me, and she was doing one of these. She was just like that. She was looking at me. And she looked at me, and she said, you've been having dreams of your dad dying. She said, every night for the last 2 weeks, you had the same recurring dream. And the dream is you're looking at a picture, and your dad's tombstone's on it, and there's really green grass around it. She said, every single night you've been having, yeah, she called it out 100%. This is how good she was. And I completely, 6 years old, and I did not know that that's what mom did. I knew that she did read. The thing is called readings. People came over, and she would hold a piece of their jewelry, which is psychometry. And then she would go, oh, blah, 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 and tell them stuff. And they would go, oh my God, how did you know that? Now she was doing it to me. Now I know what mom did. And as a 6-year-old, my jaw was on the floor, because how did she know that? But she knew. She knew so much. And so she knew, and that those dreams stopped. When she called them out, they stopped. As I got older, my mom was, of course, always there. And then as I got even older, people like Keith and Sandra, and, Paul, and, Andrea Perrin from,
love her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. House of Darkness, House of Light, love, wonderful books. And, people like that were and are, a huge source of support and help, and just sanity. When, just to have someone say, look, you're not crazy. I believe you. These things happen, and I think that's another reason why I wrote my book, was because I had to verbalize these things. I had them so buried in my, soul all these years. And,
right.
I'll be 45 in a few months, you know what I mean? So, to get all this out finally, like I said, my book was good therapy for me. It was, all this cathartic, energy just coming out. I had to get this stuff out. I was regurgitating, I got angry at not being believed. I got hurt by
Right.
Told I was being naughty when I wasn't, you know what I mean? And so I had to deal with a lot. It wasn't just, oh, here's some paranormal encounters I went through, it was kind of hard to talk about some of this stuff because there was a lot of pain that went with it. So, but I muscled through it. I got through it, you know what I mean? And I got all of this on paper because I knew, and I hope that whoever reads this book, and I'm not expecting, a lot of people to read it, but if people do read it, I'm hoping that my story will bring them some sort of solace, and they go, oh, well, she went through that, and I went through that too, and I hope they feel better to know that they're not alone.
We got about 4 minutes left. I want to ask you about the backyard humanoid in your book. What's this creature all about?
Well, that was one of the earlier encounters that I had. That was when I lived with my mom. Again, we didn't have a lot of scary stuff happen there. It was more curious. And this encounter was really, for me, being, all of 3 or 4 years old, was quite terrifying. I was there with my middle sibling and their friends. And all of a sudden we had a dinky little porch light that was shining out towards the canal. And we saw this figure. And it just looked weird. It looked human, but it didn't humanoid, humanish. And I still remember being a little kid in the mix, and I didn't know what was going on. And my middle sibling and their friends were running from room to room. They were running from the bedroom to the kitchen, looking out each window, screaming, "Oh my God, who is that? What is going on?" And then this thing just vanished. So I can't really tell you much about it other than it was really scary. That was one of the very few scary encounters. My mom had a few scary ones there where she was all alone by herself, and she loved being by herself. It was very peaceful out there. What she told me, she was like, I was at peace there. I loved being alone. She would disconnect the phone. She would just kind of be in her own little cocoon. And she said one night, she was there by herself, and in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, the toilet lid that was really heavy and never fell before, all of a sudden slammed down with a force that sounded like it was about to crack. Like, it could have busted off the seat. That's how hard it was. And then she also heard another sound, some sort of weird disembodied sound. She told me that it sounded like someone was driving a truck through the wall, and no, nothing was there. Nothing was amiss.
Oh my goodness. So this creature, what did it look like? How tall was it?
It was fairly tall, very skinny. And I remember looking out and I couldn't see any clothes. It was just weird. It was kind of shadowy, but yet you could see something. And was standing kind of, because it was weird because the porch light, like I said, it was a very dinky porch light. It wasn't like the high-powered LED ones you have today, It was just this tiny little bug light, that we had on. And I remember it was standing just beyond that light. So you could just see like the legs and the torso, and you could kind of make out the head and the arms. And it was just terrifying. I mean, it was like one of the few scary things, like I said, that happened there. Not too much happened there that was that scary, but yeah, my sibling.
Did it move? Did it talk?
No, that's the thing. It wouldn't move, and it wouldn't talk, and it just stood there. And I remember my sister and their my sibling and their friends were just running from room to room, going, "Should we call the cops? What do we do?" And it was just, and I'm standing there going, what's happening? Because the adults, not adults, they're teenagers really, but you know what I mean? I was like, who's going to protect me? I'm the little kid here,
Oh, yeah. MG, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Paranormal stories from her heart, author M.G. Stephens, and her experiences all put together in a great book called The Boogeyman Chronicles, which can be found on Amazon as we speak. No extended name, nothing fancy, but just get right to the title, The Boogeyman Chronicles. And when we come back, MG is going to explain more of her encounters from The Boogeyman Chronicles when we return for hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear now. There you go. What's your podcast called?
The Boogeyman Chronicles.
The Boogeyman Boogeyman Chronicles podcast.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Ugh.
I just wanted to, again, to me, like the Boogeyman encompasses a lot of scary things, So I
Yes.
didn't want to call it UFO Chronicles to just be, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself. So I just kind of said the Boogeyman, because to me, when I was growing up, the Boogeyman meant anything scary. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
When was your first paranormal encounter?
My first one that I can recall was in 2000, late 2000, 2001. And my ex-wife and I moved into a duplex, and our friends lived on the other side, and we figured, you know what? Like, I hated duplexes, but it was perfect for babysitting and all that kind of stuff. And our kids were relatively the same age, and it started off with knocking. I was over next door playing a game of crib with my buddy, and all of a sudden I heard this knock on the wall. So I called, I ran over and I said, "Hey," to my ex-wife, "Did you need something?" She goes, "No." I said, "Well, why were you knocking on the wall?" And she goes, "I wasn't." Right. And that's kind of where it started. And there was just a bunch of weird stuff that happened in that place. And so that we lived there for about 2 years and didn't like it at all. And previous to that, I had worked in a haunted hockey rink, a training facility. That was strange. And there were multiple encounters there where, I remember one of the first times, I worked until like 1:00 in the morning, and I had to open up the rink at like 5:00. So I just grabbed a sleeping bag and threw it in the office and was hearing weird noises all night long. And I remember saying to my boss one night, I said, "You stayed here, you hear anything weird?" And he'd be like, "Dude, this building gives me the creeps." I mean, we would be. I remember one time I was cleaning out the dressing rooms, and my cousin and his girlfriend were there waiting for me because as soon as I got done, we were going to the bar. And all of a sudden we heard the sound of, like, I had locked up behind. One of the rules we had was, because we were the only one there when we were cleaning up, when everybody was exited the building, we would lock up the building. And I remember this one time, my cousin's there, his girlfriend's there, and nobody had been in the building but us for at least 20, 30 minutes. And I start hearing the sound of pucks hitting the plexiglass and the boards. It's a pretty distinctive sound.
Yeah.
And I run out to the rink thinking, who's on the ice? And of course, there's no one there, and there's not even a puck on the ice. Right? And it was just bad juju there.
Yeah. What happened there? Was it haunted land, or did someone die?
I think so. No, I think it was haunted land. In order to build the area where they built it, because it was in an industrial area, they had carved down a hillside. And I think there was somebody buried deep in that hillside that had been lost. But quickly here, hi Al Menial, how you doing? Connor from Bigfoot Anonymous, how you doing? Gorgeous Cindy, good to have you back. Who else has joined us here? Let's see here. Scrolling on down, and I guess that's it. Laura, MG is from LA.
Beautiful. Actually, I'm from the South. I live in LA now, but I'm from the South. My family's from North Carolina.
Hi, Lance Mannion. How you doing? Did you know if you hop on the I-5, believe it or not, if you hop on the I-5 and you drive straight north, you are literally only 5 turns from my house.
Really?
How weird is that? 5
So
turns.
You're in Las Vegas then.
No, I'm way up in British Columbia.
Oh, British Columbia. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
How
5
many
turns.
hours though? That's a lot. That's
About 25 hours. No, probably about 30 hours now.
okay.
30 hours now. All right, we got about 45 seconds. Want to say a big thank you to Black Dragon, Surf Jared with the hat trick, Vaughn, and Terry for the amazing super chats. Really helps us do what we do on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. Go check out our swag at spacedoutradio.com. I just added a new ball cap that says woo on it. I know you love the woo, people. So we got a new woo cap in there. So make sure you pick that on up, as well as some of our great t-shirts and jackets. And we're going to kick off hour number 2 here in about 10 seconds. So stay tuned. Here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters, and glad to be broadcasting to you live. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Electrometer. Electrometer is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. And once again, check us on out. Check out our swag and follow us on social media. We're all over the place. Tonight, we are speaking with author M.G. Stephens. She is a lifelong psychic empath who has put her life story out on the Boogeyman Chronicles. It can be found on Amazon right now. And MG, we want to say that she also has a podcast called the Boogeyman Chronicles, so you can check that on as well. MG, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, let's get right to it because, I mean, you dabbled in some aliens and everything like that. All right, everybody likes a little bit of alien stories around here. What happened to you extraterrestrially?
Boy, well, my mother had her own encounter, so I don't know if you want to hear that one, but my encounter happened around 1995. And I was living in the South, and there was this home church, home churchy thing that my mom used to go to, and I hated it. I was almost about, I think I was probably 17, 18 years old, and I was getting to the point where I was like, I don't want to be going to church no more, Mom. And so I told her, I was like, I really can't go in there anymore. I can't do it. And I just kind of had a freak out right before we went in. And I was like, I can't go in there. I can't go in there. I can't stand the people. They're just hypocrites and they're awful. And I can't do it. And she said, okay. She was real cool about it. She said, okay, just stay out here, which was, I don't know if you've ever seen those quadplexes, those developments that have a bunch of quadplexes, and they've got like the fenced in patio. It was that. It was out, I was standing outside one of those. So there was a man-made pond, and I'm standing on the pond, just out, standing there trying to, because I had a lot of anxiety attacks back then. And I was just standing there kind of, trying to calm myself down, realize that I've got to be out here for 4 hours. These churchy things last a really long time. So I'm like, crap, I'm going to have to stay out here. So I just, I was like, but I'm not going in there. So I got to stay out here. I got to make the best of it. So I just stood there on that pond, and I'm, if you're near a pond or canal in the South, there's toads everywhere, and those toads croaking are so loud and deafening. That's all you hear is that wah, wah, wah. So imagine a few hundred of those toads just croaking. It's a cacophony of sound, and you just don't hear anything else. They drowned out everything. So I'm standing there thinking, oh crap, I got to be out here for 4 hours. And then I thought, no, I'll be okay. I'm cool. I can handle it. So I remember looking up at the sky, trying to distract myself. And I remember not seeing any clouds, any sky, any like weird, no clouds, no stars, no moon, no nothing. I'm just seeing black. It almost didn't even look like the sky. It just looked like black felt. It was very fuzzy looking. And it was a weird kind of black. It was like the sky just did not look right. And I remember looking up at it and going, what is with the sky? That's weird, and I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think UFOs. I wasn't even thinking about UFOs. I just was like trying to calm myself down, looking at the sky, going, okay, that looks weird. And then all of a sudden I got this rush it felt like I was being stalked. And I got a rush of fear, terror, dread, panic. Oh my God, run. The lion is right there at you, that kind of like, oh my God, And so I got this rush and oh my God, and I was like, I really thought I was picking up on a person stalking me. So I'm looking all around and it's dark, it's nighttime. And I'm trying to see, and I'm not seeing a person, but I'm certain someone is sneaking up on me. At any minute, someone's going to sneak up on me. And so I'm looking terrified, trying to find a person. Finally, I kind of calm myself down. And then I notice there's no sound. All of the sound that I just heard, from the toads and the cars and the singing of the church people and the someone's TV or radio, dogs barking, blah, blah, blah. All this ambient sound completely stopped. It was like someone had muted the planet. And I remember going, okay, that's weird. No sky. Okay. And another rush of that terror hit me. And it was so terrifying. I almost dropped to my knees. It was just like, oh my God, it took the breath out of you. And again, I'm looking all around because I'm thinking that there's going to be a person. There's no person. And I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? So I'm looking at this guy. All this is happening. I'm drawing this out to tell you, but all of this is happening within half seconds. So I'm looking up at the sky, weird sky, terrifying feeling, looking around. Then all of a sudden I calm myself down. Notice there's no sound anywhere. It's like being in a sound booth. And then another rush of terror. And I'm looking all around. And then all of a sudden, where there wasn't a cloud in the sky, all of a sudden, and it's not that high up, but all of a sudden I see a thin strip of clouds. And I see 3 bright lights inside the clouds. Now, in my little crappy town that I lived in the South, anytime we saw something like that, my mom would always say, oh, car dealership's having a sale. Because, anytime the car dealership's having a sale, they always bring out those spotlights. And the spotlights do this. And they hit the clouds. And you see them and you go, And so that's what it was. I thought, And so I looked at it for a second. I saw those lights and I went, car dealership's having a sale. And I turned my head because I'm getting another rush of this terror. And I turned my head, and all of a sudden, as I turn my head, I literally hear in my head telepathically, look at the lights again. And I was like, that's not my thought, because I had already just dismissed it. So my head whips around and I look at these 3 lights, and I'm, again, seconds, and I'm looking at these lights, and the lights aren't hitting the cloud. They're not coming up. There's no beams hitting from the lights. They're not hitting the clouds. They're in the clouds. And so I see these 3 lights, and I'm really focusing in on them. And here they are going in this very intricate formation, almost like a figure 8. Now there's no sound to these lights, no sound at all. And they're moving in this very intricate formation. And it was almost like they wanted me to notice them. And I remember I looked up and I went, what the minute my brain went, what the heck? The minute I do that, they stopped right where they were and then started following each other in a circle. So this thing, whatever these things were reacting to my thoughts. And I remember looking at this thing, and I remember thinking, not a plane, not a helicopter. Of course, we didn't have drones like we do now. So I remember looking up at these lights, and I immediately got the sense, oh, that's what's stalking me. That's the creepy feeling, because it was almost like when someone wants to creep you out, they kind of show up and they're just there, and you're just looking at them and you're like, what? And it's just staring at you, It was almost like that energy. It was almost like, yeah, we're here. And I literally heard in my head, because I remember thinking, I just had this distinct impression, distinct feeling, these things weren't supposed to be here. I had a feeling like they were violating some sort of airspace, or they knew they weren't supposed to be here. They were violating some sort of rule. I know that sounds nuts, but that's what I felt immediately when I saw these things. I went, what? And it was just like, yeah, we're not supposed to be here. And I literally heard telepathically in my head, we're not supposed to be here, and we know you know it. I mean, like, it was taunting me, like it was like some kind of schoolyard bully. It was taunting me, and I got mad. And I remember thinking, wait a minute now, you don't come to my planet and start shouldering me. You don't start doing this business. And I got pissed. And I remember I looked at that thing and I thought, no, you're not coming out here to scare me. No. And I remember, of course, being, in the church, you're taught that if there's something scary, you got to say in the name of Jesus, right? So, because Jesus makes the bad go away, right? So that's what I did. I looked at this thing and I went, you're not supposed to be here, and you know it. And in the name of Jesus, you better get out of here right now. And the angrier I got, the faster the lights spun, because they were spinning in a nice even circle, just spinning, no sound. And the minute I went, oh no, you're not supposed to be here. You get out of here right now in Jesus' name. They sped up and just flew out of that cloud. And if I had blinked, I would have missed it.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I have a part 2 to this. So anyway, needless to say, I was petrified. I was like, oh my God, what did I just see? So I ran into the churchy, the one place I said I wasn't going to go that night. I ran into that churchy, apartment thing going on. And I remember I ran to like the closest quiet place, which was a stairwell that was like off to the side, staircase off to the side. It was enclosed. And I sat there on those stairs, and for God knows how long, I hugged my knees, and I just sat there and hugged my knees and just kind of rocked myself, because I was just like, what did I just see? And my mother saw me come in, and she knows me better than anybody. And she saw me and she said, what's happened? What happened to you? Like, real quietly. She looked at me. She said, what happened to you? And I said, something happened. I saw something. And she kind of looked over her shoulder at all the other people, and she said, okay, don't say anything, but we'll talk later. So when we got home, I told her what I saw, and she had her own UFO, and she had her own abduction encounter. She was actually abducted, so she had her own encounter, and so she she believed me. She said, I believe you, and but she said, don't say anything, because the people that we are, we hang around, these super churchy Christians, they're going to say you brought the devil, they're going to say, it was your fault. You did something. So don't say anything to anybody. And I didn't have anyone to tell, really, because I, didn't really have a lot of friends back then. I was agoraphobic and kind of a shut-in. So I didn't have anyone to tell. And so I remember the next meeting, I was not about to stay home, and I was not about to stay outside. So I was like, well, I'm going to stay with all these, people I can't stand, because I'm not going to, get taken out by, creepy ET. So anyway, so I sat in that meeting and sulked the whole entire service, the singing, the preaching, the Bible study. I'm just sitting there like, oh, no. And I noticed, and everyone else did too, that the parents of my ex-boyfriend, who were the super Christians of that whole place, they were missionaries. These people were, they didn't let anything into their house that wasn't of God, that wasn't Jesus ridden. There was no newspapers. There was no magazines. There was nothing that wasn't Christian in their house. They didn't even watch TV. Everything in their house was either a Christian book or a Bible. And so this is how they lived. And they didn't believe in UFOs. They didn't talk about UFOs. UFOs were of the devil, you know. So I remember they walked in. Now this is the exactly a week later, the very next church service. They walk in, and normally the father was really loud, obnoxious kind of guy. And the wife was, you know, the stepmom was kind of quiet, subservient, but she was very friendly. They walked in clinging to each other like a couple of scared monkeys. And they were absolutely terrified. And they looked like they had seen a ghost. And everyone noticed how different they were. Everyone was like whispering, like, what's wrong with them? What's going on with them? And they sat down on this one little love seat, and they literally just clung to each other the entire meeting. They did not like, they just acted like they saw the worst thing in the world. So after the meeting, people get up and they start conversing, and they start eating, you know, getting coffee, tea, Coke, you know, soda, whatever, cake, whatever it is. And they get up and they start talking and whatever. And a bunch of people were like, should we talk to them? Because they didn't get up. They didn't stand up. They didn't get anything to eat. They didn't converse with anybody. They sat on that couch, clinging to each other like they had seen a ghost. And so everybody was like, should we talk to them? Should we, I don't know. What should we do? So finally, someone went over there and said, hey, are you guys okay? And they literally looked up so pitifully. I mean, I kind of felt bad for them at this point because nobody knew what was going on. And they looked up and they said, we saw something. We saw something. We saw something. We saw something. And everyone was like, what the heck is going on? You know, you do that kind of thing in a fundamentalist Christian-y, churchy, you know, environment. People tend to freak out, you know. And so finally, someone said, look, do you need prayer? Do you need to talk or something? And finally, they broke their silence and they said, when the last weekend, which was the last meeting, which is the meeting that I saw the lights, they said they were driving home, and they said something very heavy and metallic landed on the roof of their truck.
Oh.
And tried to pick up their truck for at least a half a mile.
Oh.
And they said it sounded like a heavy metal trash can, you know, those big metal trash cans that we used to have, not the plastic rolling bins that we got now, but the heavy, it landed with a clang, really loud metallic sound. And they said that this thing desperately tried to pick up their truck. Now, these people, I know where they lived. I've dated their dumb kid, you know. They lived in a heavily residential area. This was suburban, you know. It was you know what I mean? I mean, you're kind of thinking, what are these UFOs thinking? You know, you're gonna snatch someone's car up in the middle of suburbia. But yeah, they were absolutely terrified. And they said, of course, being the super Christians that they were, they said that they prayed, that they had a war in the spirit, which means they prayed some of those hard, loud prayers, you know, get out of here in Jesus' name, leave us alone, blah, blah, blah. And they said the front of their truck lifted up. The front of their truck lifted up several times because this thing was determined to snatch them up. And so they kept praying. And finally, they said this thing unlatched itself. You could feel the car, you know, drop. And I guess it flew off. I don't know. But they just couldn't believe it. And this was something that they'd never experienced this before. You know, at least my mom and we had seen some stuff, you know what I mean? So we, you know, we had an open mind. We realized, oh, it's freaking UFOs, you know what I mean? You know, but these people.
Yeah, they got some aliens there.
Yeah, and these people did not believe in this. So what was this thing? So this really challenged how they saw the world, how they saw themselves.
That is fantastic. You know, I mean, because, you know, they're either going to go one of two ways. They're either going to go into the rest of a lifetime in denial and cover up, or they're going to be like right into everything trying to figure out what it is, but we'll just keep it hush from the Christian folk around us.
Yeah, that's what I always thought to myself, because I thought many times about what they saw, because this, to me, this changed them so much. You would think that this would be this would be a life-altering experience for them. So I realized very early on, this could have gone two ways for them. They could have gone more religious, because that's what Christians do. These super Christians, these fundamentalist churchy Christians, what happens is if something bad happens to them, they tend to blame themselves. They did something, they let the devil in, and so the devil's attacking them now. So they could have gone that way with it. Like, oh, we skipped that Bible study, or we slept in and we didn't go to church. So we're the bad guys here. We let the devil in. We let our guard down. Or they could have gone, hey, you know what? Maybe there is something out there that's beyond God, Jesus, the devil, the demons, the angels. Maybe there is something out there. And maybe this did open their mind. I don't think so, because they were pretty close-minded, but they probably buried this very deep and then went very, much more Christian-y with it, and probably thought that, they let the devil in at some point. But yeah, I mean, this was a life-altering encounter. I mean, it was for me, and I kind of doubted myself. Like, did I really see that? I mean, I didn't go out of the house for 2 weeks. I was terrified. And, but I mean, it was life-altering for me, but yet again, I had an open mind. My mom had an open mind. We knew there was other things out there that can't be explained. But these people, this completely shook their world up,
I can see that. I can totally see that. I mean, did they ever talk about it again?
I lost contact with them because we stopped going to this churchy thing. My mom finally got tired of going there, so we stopped going to it. So I often wonder what happened to them. Did they go this way or that way?
Goodness me. And you know what? I kind of know that feeling for myself, because when I had my black triangle incident over top of my house with a couple of my friends on my patio, it's scary when all of a sudden you look up and there is something there, and this thing was only a couple thousand feet above us. And it just, I can understand that fear. I can understand that panic and everything. I mean, gosh, I drank a lot of beer that night after that.
Yeah. Because you don't, this is a thing said not to exist, and now here it is. What do you do? And your brain scatters in 1,000 different directions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you ever mention to your mom that you had potentially seen that exact same craft that took them, or that was chasing them?
Yeah, because I went home and told her, because she came around the corner, because when I ran in after I had seen that, like I said, I went to the stairwell and I was hugging my knees. I'm sure I was white as a sheet. And she was like, what happened to you? And I said, I saw something. And I went home and I told her.
But did you guys put two and two together that it could have been that same craft?
Yeah. We started to kind of talk about it, and we just kind of went, wow, that was weird, and we didn't really talk about it much after that, but we kind of put two and two together that I guess they went to bother me. I guess they were just casing the place. You know what I mean? It kind of, I always joke about this. Like I never had another UFO encounter, because I think I sent them off with such a bad taste in their mouth that they put me on some sort of intergalactic do not call list. And so they haven't bothered me since then, because they were like, nah, man, she's crazy. She started screaming at us and everything. Like, they crossed me off the list. Like, no, recall, no follow-up calls, that kind of thing. And it kind of really felt like these were sort of like newbies, because it kind of felt like they were kind of like teenagers that kind of got their dad's car, and it was like, let's cause some trouble. It had that energy to it. You know what I mean? Because I quickly sent that thing off screaming at it. I mean, and I always tell people that it reminds me of the kind of when you see that viral video of that dumb guy that's dancing in front of the buffalo, because he thinks the buffalo is that dumb, slow thing, and then the buffalo starts taking off, and the guy's like, oh, it's kind of like that. They thought it was like the dumb earthling, like, hey, let's go bother some earthlings tonight. And they came and started to bother me, and I'm like, no. And I kind of charged at them, and they freaked out, so it kind of has that feel to it.
I would love to see if their vehicle had markings on it afterwards. M.G Stephens is here. We have her for another 30 minutes. Her book on Amazon is called The Boogeyman Chronicles. Her podcast is the same name. We'll be back with MG when we return on Spaced Out Radio. This is so much fun.
I hope
So
so.
much fun.
Yeah, my mom had a really creepy encounter. I mean, call it, I don't know, better, but her encounter was way more involved. She actually was taken aboard a craft.
Nice.
She swore it was a dream. That was the funny thing. She was like, "No, it was a dream." I'm like, "Mom, that was no dream," and she didn't want to hear it.
She got some aliens.
Yeah.
Who hasn't had aliens, really? Who hasn't had aliens? Have you had aliens?
Evan.
You having fun yet?
Who, me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me? Okay, I don't know if you're talking to me or you're
No, I'll let you know if I'm talking to the.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
Good. Good.
It's always fun to talk to like-minded people. You start, because I mean, it's one thing when you're in the room full of skeptics and you start talking about this kind of stuff, they kind of start snickering and giggling, and it's just like, oh, come on. But then when you start talking about people that are like, yeah, I saw that same thing, it's kind of, it's different energy.
Very true. Very, very true. Very true. Right. I love the energy, and that's what I love about our crowd too. Is that they're like right into it too with their own experiences and stories. So it's all good. Oh, Michael Leger is here. The Michael Leger, the creator of my gnome, right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Still can't believe he made that by hand. Love this thing.
That's very cute.
Yeah. It's freaking awesome. Original Aaron, check in the cupboard. Just to the left. All right. I'm going to ask you a very tough question here. We ask this of every guest. Don't ruin it. Don't say the wrong answer if you don't mind. What's your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I love it. It's called night breakfast. No? Oh, come on. It's called night breakfast. It's good. What, is my interview over? You can disconnect me. I'm sorry. Okay, it's terrible.
No. These people in the chat room there, they're all cheering you on because apparently I'm the weird one here.
It's called night breakfast, and you need to get on board. It's awesome.
Breakfast is for morning time.
No, it's food.
Wake up in the morning. No, it's for the morning time. That's the reason why they have the name breakfast behind them. All right.
Well, I mean, look at other countries and what they eat for breakfast. You know what I mean? It's completely different than North America. So
we're not in other countries. We are in the continent of North America.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm trying to help.
All right, I'm just going to ignore you right now.
Okay.
Let's say hello, good evening to the lovely Rose Demaray. Let's say hello to our good friend, lovely Lavira Lucchini. Acreon, good to have you here. Hey, where's Race Fan tonight? Where's Race Fan? He never misses a show. Sweet Tony D, nice to have you here. Yes, Von Patrick, 100% agree, except for the damn breakfast for dinner.
That ruined everything.
She was an amazing guest. was an amazing guest. All right.
Sorry.
Look at the sickness of Zenzabil here. The only thing better than breakfast for dinner, Dave, is breakfast for dinner on a cruise ship. You know what happens on a cruise ship? They sink, and then the sharks eat you. It's terrible. Terrible. Thank you to veteran Surf Jair for the hat trick, Black Dragon, Vaughn, and Terry for the wonderful super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show. Here we go with the next half hour. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with M.G. Stephens. She's a paranormal author, experiencer, psychic medium. She wears a great fedora hat. I mean, there's not much to like about, not to like about her, except the fact that she eats breakfast foods at night, which I highly disagree with, but that's okay. Everyone's got their flaws. MG, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. Outside of the aliens that you guys had, let's go back to your book, The Boogeyman Chronicles. I want to know about your mom's astral traveling.
Well, I talked about that earlier. That was what she...
I don't remember that.
You don't remember? Yeah, I mean, my oldest sibling had a baby, and my mother wished, that she could.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my mom. I'm sure she had many other encounters that she just. I mean, my mom treated it like it was an everyday thing because that was kind of what she did. So if she did astral travel,
this whole breakfast for dinner thing just screwed me right up.
It just
screwed me right up. Let's just go to Vaughn here. Vaughn is asking, MG, are you angry about your experiences or have you grown as a person?
I feel like I've grown as a person because now I'm finally starting to kind of get comfortable in this skin. I'm starting to finally kind of go, okay, so I'm a medium empath and this is what I do and this is who I am. And I can't get away from it. This is, it's just, it is what it is. And this is me. And I have an antenna that's up all the time. And you have to learn to live with it. It's almost like a disability or a condition, you almost have to kind of accommodate it. And that's kind of what I have to do. And so I'm not really angry because it's like being angry for being dyslexic. I mean, really, you're going to hate your own brain, I mean, there's times when you do get angry, but what can you do about it? Being angry doesn't solve anything. And you just have to take the positives and make it, into something good.
How often are your experiences now?
I haven't had anything really terribly scary in the last, I would say in the last maybe 3 or 4 years. I've been kind of on just, kind of going through my own health issues and stuff like that. And just kind of, dealing with the sort of the everyday stuff that's been right in front of me. So I've been kind of sheltered from it. I really haven't gone on any investigations. I do help people diagnostically, when it comes to their own encounters or their own, say they have something in their house or their apartment or their land, and they send me pictures and I can kind of tell them what's on their land or in their house. And I can't really do the clearings myself. I mean, I'll recommend you to someone or what have you, but I do more of the diagnosing of those things. I'm pretty good at calling those things out. I kind of know what's, if there's something in the room or, on that property. So.
Very, very cool. I like the way that you have kind of matured around it. You've accepted it. A lot of people struggle with that, and a lot of people tend to wonder, is this something that is going to end? Do you think you've been shut down the last 3, 4 years? Kind of like they've said, okay, we've given her enough. Let's calm it down for a while.
It could be there, who knows? The powers that be might be like, you know what, she's going through enough. Let's just, let's just let her deal with what's in front of her, and when she's in a better place, let's get her again. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I mean, again, I have that antenna that's always up, so I know when someone's gonna call me. I know when something's gonna happen or not happen. You know what I mean? There's a level of it that's always there. I tell people it's not really an off and on switch. It's more like a dimmer switch. I can kind of turn it down and be like, okay, I got a lot going on, so let's just focus on this and kind of shut out all that other stuff. And again, I'm not in the place to where I'm encountering a lot of things right now. I'm just, I'm not doing, like I said, I'm not going on actual. I mean, I've been asked to be on 2 paranormal shows, and I just kind of told them I can't really do that right now. So, it's just not a good place for that.
All right. I want to ask you in regards to your book again, the Boogeyman Chronicles, which can be found on Amazon. Way down there in chapter 11, you have the chasers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for most of us, the chasers are going to be about, having a chaser with your alcoholic beverage, but this is more paranormal, and I'm curious if you could break down what that is.
Well, several different times, I didn't know what else to call them, but several different times, like I said, I felt like I had like a linebacker run at me, and you could feel the wind, the wind of something, but, and then there was other times when, right before I went back to live with my mom, I was about 13, and we had moved into this house that the land was not good. There was something on that land. And I remember there was times when I could feel, I'd be in the hallway and I could feel something come up behind me, and I'd be like, oh crap. Okay. And I would just take off running, and whatever this thing was, I could feel it right on my heels, because something would trip me and I would fall, and I would look back and I couldn't see anything, but I could feel something just kind of glowering over me. Like, I got you, And so, yeah, I mean, there were a few instances where I would just be so freaked out. I would just take off running, and whatever this thing was, it was hot on my heels.
Oh, wow. Wow. At any point for a lot of these entities that you have encountered, they always seem, in your case, to be more of a negative aspect to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you have a lot of positivity with the paranormal as well? Or were your encounters just like a lot of ET people where they only have the negative happen to them? And some people get all the peace, love, and light, and, Grandma Sawyer coming up and saying, hey, this is my famous cookie recipe, but you don't seem to have that.
No, unfortunately. When I was younger, I think I was just scared. It's the bully factor, where the big bullies see the scared little kid, whether it's in school or paranormal speaking, they see that little kid that's not going to fight back, and they're like, I'm going to get that one, the one that's, not doesn't look very confident, and I guess that's how I looked maybe to the paranormal bullies. I guess I looked like I was, not very confident. So I got I got beat up, for lack of a better word, for bullied for many, many years, until finally, I kind of grew some balls, and spiritually, I guess I had just seen a lot of stuff. And of course, the whole Christian thing, you realize where your power lies, where your authority lies. Even if you're not, I mean, I know people that aren't Christian that still use the name of Jesus, and it just does what it does. It gets rid of the bad. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never really, I mean, I can think back to, maybe a encounter or two that wasn't, it's weird. It's like, it goes from terrifying to creepy, but there's no real good in any of it, but I mean, there is, like I said before, there is that other side of it to where I can help people with it. You know what I mean? So there is that, but as far as stuff coming at me, Grandma has never come at me. I wish grandma would come at me. I miss her. You know what I mean? I would love to see my grandma again.
Oh yeah, I've only ever seen my grandma once, and that happened when uh, it happened when my nephew passed away.
Mm.
And he was 29 when he passed away, and he was born, I think, about 6 months, 5 months before right after my grandmother had passed away, so she didn't get a chance to meet him on this side.
Mm.
And it was very traumatic for my sister, who was very close with my grandmother at that time. And so that was a little harsh. And that was the only time I've seen both my grandfathers, but my one grandmother hadn't seen her ever until this point. And the funny part about it is she never said a thing to me. She just smiled, and she was looking down at my nephew with the biggest smile on her face, and kind of like, "Hey, son, grandma's got you now." And it was beautiful. I feel myself getting a little choked up over that, but
yeah, I'm
yeah.
so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss. But I mean, the positive is she, that her coming back let you know we're all together back over here. We're all good. We're all together, and we're okay. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. I thought it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, I remember saying to her, "Hey, grandma, you can come around a little bit more often,
Well, I mean, maybe she is, and you just don't see her or feel her. But you know what? Ask for a sign. That's one thing I always tell people. Always ask for a sign if you want to see grandma or whoever.
Yeah, yeah. No, my grandfather on my dad's side, he used to come around quite a bit. He used to come around a lot, and some of the experiences we had with him, it was just some were creepy, some were really cool. I remember when my daughter, she was about 4 or 5 months old, maybe a little bit older. Yeah, maybe a little older than that. Pardon me. I picked her up one day, and she smelled just like my grandfather's lawnmower shop. And my ex-wife couldn't smell it. And I'm like, how could you not smell this? Like, she didn't have a dirty diaper or anything, right? And I'm like, how can you not smell this? The smell of grease and gasoline and dirt and cut grass, and just, I would do anything to smell that again. And I remember I called my grandmother up shortly after that. I'm like, Grandma, you're not going to believe what's going on here. And she goes, like, I tell her, and she goes, you know what? She goes, that doesn't surprise me. I said, really? She goes, she always called me in her Ukrainian accent. She goes, David. She goes, you have to understand, your grandfather always wanted a granddaughter.
Oh.
Or a daughter, and they had 3 sons. She goes, so no, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And I was just like, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah.
We've got 10 minutes with you. We need to learn a lot more about your story. Tell us.
No, I love hearing about other people's stories, especially their family encounters. I have a relative that passed, and anytime I go through something, this person loved monarch butterflies, and monarch butterflies will show up either in real life, or I'll see one. I saw a cardboard one on the side of the road the other day. That's when I was starting to get kind of worried about something. I saw that and I was like, okay, that was my sign,
Now, the fact that you, once again, have kind of been shut down for the last 3 or 4 years, have you been able to finally breathe a little bit and get your own life in order that you may not have been able to previous?
Yeah, I mean, again, like when I hit those teenage years, and I did the Christian thing, and I kind of realized, oh, this is how you make the bad go away. that's when I started to get a more of a foothold. And so if anything ever came at me, it doesn't bother me now. It's like a shoe fly, kind of thing now. So from the time of 15 on, I had, I've had several encounters that I just kind of was like, get out of here. You know what I mean? So, the last few years, I haven't had anything terrifying coming at me. Cause like I said, I'm not doing the ghost hunts. I'm not doing the investigations. Haven't for a while. So, I haven't had anything terrifying coming at me, but like I said, I'm always on. It's a dimmer switch, so the antenna is always up. So I do readings for people. I do that kind of thing. But as far as terrifying, really horrible things coming at me, I haven't had that in the last few years, which is nice. It's a nice little break.
Do you ever wish that there are certain portions of it that you could change or experience that you haven't experienced yet?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, for instance, like for me as an experiencer, I've seen UFOs. I've seen UFOs on the ground. I was too chicken to run in and have it, to run up to that craft and check it on out. I would
Mhm.
do anything to do that again. I mean, do you have any experiences that you would like to change or have happen again that, that maybe you would do differently?
No. A lot of these encounters, again, there's a few things that I would like to go back to my old hometown, and I would like to do a tour of all the places I grew up to see what I feel now that I know what it is. You know what I mean? I know that it's the paranormal. Now I have a better idea. So now I want to go back to those places and see what I pick up. You know what I mean? Just to see what I feel, especially at that condo. I want to go there, and I want to it's like going back to confront your bullies. You want to go back to them and be like, well, you weren't so scary, and look at them and just say, what was it about me? And face off and kind of see them for who they are now that you're on this other side of it. And so that's kind of what I want to do. I don't want to change any encounters because they are what they are, but I would love to go back and do a tour of those old places and just kind of see things from a completely different angle.
So you do.
Yeah.
You do.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, I don't really want to change any encounters because it's like I don't. I mean, they are what they are, and I feel like they made me who I am. You know what I mean? This book wouldn't be here. The podcast wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be helping people if I hadn't been through all that scary stuff and know what it's like to feel out of control. But I really want to go back to those places. I find myself I Google Earth some of these places, and I looked at them to see what I feel, and I still get creeped out. I still feel a really bad feeling. So I think whatever's there is still there.
Question from Captain Rabbit in the UK. If you can make them leave in Jesus' name, can you make them come back in his name as well?
I don't think so. I think when you banish something, that's the whole point of getting rid of it. I don't think you can make something appear. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of people, wishing something. Usually, when you're trying to summon something, it's usually a demon or something. You know what I mean? So, I've never heard of someone doing that. I mean, I've seen a lot of people pray over people in Jesus' name, pray that they get healed or restored or their situation gets fixed. But I've never seen anyone call something forth in Jesus' name unless you're trying to summon Jesus himself. I don't know.
All right, let's continue on here. For you as you move forward here, what are your plans moving towards the future, with the paranormal? Obviously, you were able to get this book out, the Boogeyman Chronicles, and now you've kind of started your own podcast to kind of help learn and teach others and even learn for yourself. But for you, where do you see yourself expanding here?
I am in the process of writing more books. I am working on a book now called Stories from Turtle Island, which is an indigenous person's perspective of the paranormal. I see a lot of books where it's white people or non-native people talking about, sharing other like natives, indigenous people's paranormal stories. And I want to get a first person's perspective on that. So I'm interviewing, indigenous folks and getting their stories. So that's one book. And there's another book that I'm working on because there is a correlation between neurodivergence and ESP. A lot of people who are autistic and have ADHD, not all, but a lot, are psychic. They either have, precognitive dreams, or they have full-on paranormal experiences, or they can guess the gender of a baby before it's born, like weird little things like that, stuff like that. So I'm writing a book about that. And so if anyone has any stories, if you're an indigenous person and you have any stories, please write me, Boogeyman Chronicles at outlook.com. Also, if you're neurodivergent or someone who's neurodivergent that has, experiences, has ESP and has paranormal experiences, please write me. I would love to hear your story. And, stuff like that. I love getting people's stories out there. And two, again, why do I have this ability? And I feel like it's to help people. So I do readings. So if you want a mediumship reading, please let me know. And, or if you have, a haunted location that you want someone to help you understand it better, then drop me a line.
And she eats breakfast for dinner, people. So just be careful.
Proudly.
Hold her to a grain of salt. Just gonna say that. Can we really trust someone's psychic opinion if they eat breakfast for dinner?
Yes.
I really.
Yes, you can.
I just don't know about this. I just don't know about it. We got 2.5 minutes left for you tonight, and I want to say thank you for coming on and making this such a fun and wonderful show. You were very entertaining and fun, and the fedora hat just put the nail on the put the nail on it. It's just beautiful. For you, as you start to expand your podcast and everything, where can people find your podcast, and how many times a week are you going, or what's your schedule?
Oh, right now I haven't posted a new video in a while. I have several guests lined up, but schedules and this and that. I had surgery actually a few months ago, so I'm still recovering from that. So things have, been kind of on the back burner, but I have some really good shows up. I kind of go a little longer than usual with some people, like Terry Lovelace. We did like 4 episodes with him, crammed into 2, because he has so many encounters. It went into his childhood. So I kind of sweep the corners of people's lives. I don't just talk about that one encounter. I want to talk about all of it. Just so people can hear that and, maybe feel a sense of solidarity and solace. Like, oh, I've had a lifetime of encounters too. That's the whole thing. That's my thing, a lifetime of encounters. And, so I interview a lot of people that have a lifetime of, encounters. And two, I know quite a few people that only had one encounter. And so, I'm lining those shows up as we speak. But yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called the Boogeyman Chronicles, and it's just a simple format. I'm just talking to people, getting their stories out.
Awesome. And hopefully you get that fired up again pretty soon, because there's a lot of people to talk to, and so many fresh stories that are out there that just need to come to light. I mean, we've heard a bunch of them, but that's why I was excited about getting you on this show. It's a new story. It's a new adventure of true life that was happening for you. And I'm so glad you decided to come on here. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a really good time.
Me too. It went very fast. Hard to believe 2 hours is up. I know. M.G Stephens, everyone. The Boogeyman Chronicles. It can be found on Amazon, the book. You definitely want to get it. I mean, there's nothing better than true stories of a lifetime. And that's what you got here. Is true stories of a lifetime. And that's, that's all you can ask, is somebody's life story of the whoa, because that's what we do here. Coming up in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller has a spooky story for you. Then the fedora-wearing John Hudson returns for the Unbiased UFO Report. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, we're clear. Great show.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it.
Black Dragon again? Thank you so much, my friend. Very much appreciate the love. Wow. I'm special tonight. Special. Thank you so much, my man. Appreciate it. Yeah, great job, by the way.
Thank you.
And I apologize to you. I'm not feeling 100% today.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So normally I'm, bouncing all over the place, but I loved your story, and I thought it was very, very from the heart. And that's all I ever ask from my guests, is just speak your truth from the heart. And you were incredible. Seriously.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I have chronic health issues, so I'm never feeling all that great. I'm never feeling 100%. So it takes a lot of effort for me to put the makeup on and the stuff and to sound
I know.
like I'm
Trust me. I got to put the war paint on all the time. I will let you go though, so that way you can get some rest. And thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll definitely do this again.
Yeah, definitely. And I would love to have you on my show. Share your stories if you're interested.
Let me know.
Okay.
Let me know.
All right. Yep. Thank you. Feel better.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. M.G Stephens, everyone. She's wonderful. I'm just going to step away. I will be right back in a couple of minutes. Doug Stevenson. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Oh, Ann Palmer says, I'm not giving up my recliner. Well, nor should you. Never. My cat takes over my recliner. Gorgeous Larry, good to see you. I'll be fine. I am hungry, though. Got like 25 seconds. Thank you to Black Dragon ×2, Surf Jair ×3, Vaughn and Terry for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you very much. Here comes hour number 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Electrometer. Electrometer is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where we head into the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller is back with another spooky story.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Hello there, Swamp Dweller. You can call me Mr. B. I have heard the majority of your stories told on the channel. I want to say I love your narrations. Now then, I wanted to tell you of a time I came face to face with what I could only describe to be as a dog man. For context, I'm a 26-year-old male, 5'6", and kind of buff. Never scared easy. Coming to think of it, standing face to face with this thing, I got an otherworldly presence. Anyways, I'm getting out of mind here. As I was saying, this all took place at my good friend Jason's house in Mount Poconos. Now, Jay's place was not too shabby. It wasn't exactly what you would think of for a home up there. It was very modern. Jason loved to drink. So, as we would do every other weekend, we would get smashed and have a good time. Okay, now for the story. I was gearing up to go out ice fishing with Jason late at night, drinking and having some fun doing nothing but staying warm with these pocket warmers. So it wasn't all bad. I arrived at Jay's place a little after 5 as we would be drinking shots before we went. But something deep down was telling me not to drink so much that night. I don't know if it was a weird feeling you get when your body can sense something isn't right while you physically can't. So I chose the latter and kind of drank here and there. Jason asked why I wasn't drinking as much, but I said not to sour the mood. Sorry man, just got terrible pains in my stomach. Jason replies, well, alcohol heals all. I laughed and said, nah man, I gotta go to the bathroom. He said, forget you then. obviously starting to get drunk already. So I head to the bathroom. I feel this overwhelming sense that something just isn't right. For further background, I have a family of occult witchcraft. I was blessed by my grandmother's sister right before she passed. This haunts me to think about, but I'm living strong. As I am standing there, this window looks out into the forest, and a dense forest surrounds it. I take a look, and in the distance, I see what can only be described as glowing blood-red eyes. I take a step back and leave the bathroom immediately. I get to my friend, who was already ready to go, and I saw that he was drunk as a skunk. Having a backpack of 12 cans of Bush, his bottle of vodka, you can say he was definitely a bit tipsy. He looked at me and said, "Hey, you ready, or will you be a sissy and chicken out?" I gave him this look like, "Don't go." But I said, "No, man, I'm good. I'll come with. He's my friend. I won't abandon him there if something is lurking about." So I gear up, but I take a simple sawed-off that he keeps under his kitchen sink with some slugs. I take them and load them up. Jay asked, "Hey man, what are you doing with my baby?" I said, "Well, I thought it would be fun to shoot some cans when we're done." He of course goes, "Oh yeah man, let's do it." I dump half the shells in my bag and get up and head out. It was a crisp, cold night. We headed out to find some ponds. Yeah, sounds dumb, I know, but this is my friend. He was there for me when nobody else was, like a brother. I also brought spray paint with me, pure white, to mark our paths so we wouldn't be lost. Now then, we are going deep into the woods, and it is so dead quiet that you could hear the drop of a waterfall from a mile away. It wasn't right. It was off. I couldn't help shaking it off. We are being watched by a dark, solid force. There was a presence. I looked around as my friend slowly stumbles and falls. I go to him, pick him up, and say, "I think we should head back. You're too drunk. Let's party in the house, man." He looks up, smiles drunkenly, and says, "Sure, I want to listen to AC/DC. It's too cold. Besides, we're probably out of beer as well," he says in his drunken state. I slowly picked him up, and we started walking back very slowly. We turn around, and I see it there, standing behind us, not even 50 feet away. This thing was tall. If I had to guess, it was roughly 10 feet tall, or maybe even bigger. This creature was just standing there before me and my friend. Sounds began to emanate from this thing, just breathing, and the steam coming from its nose, with those same blood-red eyes I saw before. It didn't do anything but stare at me, but I knew that this thing was much more hostile if it wanted to be. I was trying to understand what it wanted, and it seemed like it was trying to understand what we wanted. Or maybe it was deciding to attack us, or if it was going to let us go. Now I know that not many would take this as accurate and brush it off as a rubbish dogman encounter story. But to me, being from my family, it was more than understanding that we were not so different. I had my curse and it had its curse to bear. Mine is to be doomed to loneliness, as my friend Jason died 6 months after this. To end this story, the beast then closed its eyes, and just like that, it was gone in the darkness of the trees. We scrambled and made it back to safety. My friend literally peed himself, and I didn't know what to say or believe what we had seen that night. This again was 6 months before his death. In the end, as I say, my curse is loneliness. Well, that is true. I have no friends, but I work. Not much family left, that's for sure. And it isn't enjoyable nowadays about having anyone be your friend, as I am also an empath. Honestly, this was a life-changing encounter with what I can only describe as Dogman, and I would love to know what others would think about this. And thank you, Swamp Dweller, for sharing my story.
Oh, man. Imagine turning around and seeing a dog man right behind you. That's why we love our resident swamp dweller around here, because he's always telling us spooky stories each and every night. Go to youtube.com/swamp dweller reads. He's got thousands of stories on there. Hey, I listen to the guy literally every night before I go to bed. So I go to bed creeped out, literally, each night. All right, enough about getting creeped out. Let's get the creep factor back in here. No, I'm teasing. It's the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO reports. There he is, looking stellar as usual. His hair flowing from behind the fedora. How you doing, my man?
Doing good, doing good. Yourself?
I am doing very good, man. Not feeling 100% today, but I'm just, I don't know what it is. Don't know
You
what
might
it
need a personal day. Go get your hair done, your nails. Maybe you just need to do a little self love.
Well, you know what? I was actually thinking about that. I really
Well, there you
was, because
go. There you
I
go.
could use a little trim on my hair and maybe a clean up on the beard kind of thing. So
Sure, why not? Why not?
Hey,
You know?
why not? Why not? You know how
Wow,
it
man,
is.
what a guest.
She was amazing, wasn't she, M.G. Stephens?
Yeah, I mean, I had to cut out for some of it to do some research for this, but I go back and listen to the rest of it because that was just she was one of those she's one of those storytellers where the way she tells it and the way she interprets it is almost on its own as interesting as the actual content of what she discusses. She's got a very interesting approach and quite an interesting experience.
I 100% agree with you, and I loved her honesty and her candor with everything, and I really think those true tales that you get like that, those are hard to find, very, very hard to find.
Well, and I will say this as well is I wasn't so unlucky, but I had a lot of friends who had really dark childhoods growing up, and those kids that grew up in those dark childhoods like she did, they usually come out with a real sense of honesty because the world hasn't been sugarcoated for them.
Very true. Very, very true. What do you got for us tonight there, fedora wearing John Hudson? I know there's a lot going on, and for a lot of people in the UFO world, they're rolling their eyes because there was such a beautiful pause in the UFO world without the likes of Jeremy Corbell, who you either love him or you can't stand him, one of the two. And I don't mind the guy. I really don't. I just like teasing the entire thing. But he's back, and he's all over the place once again.
He's back, and I will say, just in the effort of full full disclosure, which is a funny thing to say here, I am a Jeremy Corbell fan. I do like the guy, and I've talked to him a teeny bit over email, and I like him well enough. But yeah, no. But the thing is that this is what I want. This is basically the main thing I want to talk about is that we are at a point right now where every single thing that comes out becomes an attack surface for everyone involved. And so, like in this case, like as much as I like Jeremy, I agree with a lot of people. And when I saw that he was going to be interviewed, I was like, I was a little nervous, I will admit. And honestly, like I was kind of blown away. Like I thought he did outstanding, and the way he diffused the some of the comments in a very polite, friendly way that wasn't abrasive at all. Clearly, Jeremy has gotten a lot of training. If you're listening, Mr. Knapp, thank you. But the thing that's very interesting about it is that depending on what version of it you watch, you are going to get a different message, because some of them are 8-minute clips, some of them are 4-minute clips, some of them start off with X-Files montages, completely cliche, ridiculous X-Files montages. Some of them don't. And so this is the problem. It's what I'm talking about, is we're now at a point where even if the core product, in this case, what Jeremy said, is actually good, which, let's face it, the stuff we get isn't always all that good. But in this case, it actually is. He did a really good job. And even with that good kernel of data, what we get is basically both sides claiming that it completely represents their argument this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was the Jeremy talking about this time?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Please.
No, was really nice. Was it? He did not. He was probably the least agendaed version of Jeremy that I've seen. In that they really kind of drove a lot of the interview, as you'd hope, and just doesn't only happen. And so they were able to ask a lot of questions. Like, for example, one of them asked, if we know for a fact these things are real, and if we know for a fact that humans are being biologically impacted by them, like how worried should we be, like in our day-to-day lives? And asked it in a very realistic way. And Jeremy answered. He goes, "Why? Honestly, I don't think you should be. I think it's a very, very rare occurrence, but it's obviously happening. We have it documented, and so we better be throwing a bunch of money and science at it to figure out what's going on." Right. And it was great. I mean, he did a really good job of offering rebuttals to, and there were some ones where, they were clearly trying to drive him to a silly place. Like one of them asked, if there was some, frequency of, when they show up, like, for example, after the pubs close. Right. Now, as a side note, it's actually true. If you look at the statistics across the United States, there are some interesting patterns having to do with evenings, but it has nothing to do with bars closing. It has to do with people going out and looking at the sky after they have dinner, right? So, so the point is that but the thing is that they covered. What I was going to say was that when the guy made the comment about that, Jeremy basically, came back with a very quick rebuttal, and he's like, we actually do find that they usually show up on Wednesday evenings. Wasn't that brilliant, right? It was perfect.
That is kind of brilliant.
And he delivered it completely. I mean, it was perfect. And honestly, the two people interviewing didn't get it. It was beautiful.
Of course not.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But like I said, if you watch it and you watch the ones with like the X-Files montage that they put in front of it, you enter into that interview in a different mindset, than if you did with a different previous montage. And so even when you have something that's actually good content, where it was just kind of a basic conversation about, like the guy asked, well, isn't it still possible these are adversarial devices? And Jeremy, like, he shut that down in actually a very polite, very concise way. And he was a, kind of like from the Pooh story, this was a newer, happier, friendlier, less bouncy, Jeremy, right? And so it was good stuff. But the problem is that once again, not only do we have people taking different angles at it, but a lot of this is all wrapped around these 1,500 pages of FOIA documents that were released. And for those that aren't aware, I believe those. When did those dump, Dave? Was that 3 days ago?
No, but last week. It was last week.
Was it last week? Okay, so it was last week. So for those that aren't aware, just real quick, it was a large dump of documents that was delivered via FOIA, and these documents covered a tremendous amount about biological effects, and so that is what is kind of, I believe, the catalyst for why Jeremy is suddenly on all these news broadcasts. It's basically to join up with the release of those 1,500 documents and provide some continuity between the story arc is essentially what I'm seeing. And he's actually been trained and he's doing better. It's awesome. Go Jeremy. But the thing is that it's not as simple as just putting an X-Files montage in front of it, right? Because these documents, one, they cover all their sources. Okay, and depending on what decade it was, some of those sources were not necessarily reputable sources, and it doesn't mean they were held with any weight. It just means that they were considered a part of data. But it includes a lot of periodicals from the 60s and the 70s that were not well viewed later on, and so people are using that to call a bunch of shade on the research. It does, and then it also. Which, honestly, I don't even know like how much I'm really comfortable talking about, to be very honest with you. But, it also gets into the pregnancy aspect of it. And that's not only is it a very difficult topic, but it's a very pertinent one for a lot of folks. And we finally get a little bit of documentation that's been acknowledged as something, whatever something is, right? That's as far as anyone will go. It's something. Congratulations. We get that, and then there's kind of like this. I don't know. It just kind of feels like a pass off in a way. But the thing is that a lot of this is happening not because of I think anyone driving it from the top. It's more from I think parties within our system pushing their own agendas.
Let me interrupt you here for a second because I got a ton of questions that I want to ask you, John. Number one, for people who may not know Jeremy Corbell, why is there such controversy around him in the UFO field?
Because of Mickey Rourke. No, I'm kidding. It's not just because of Mickey Rourke. And no offense to Mickey Rourke. Basically, Jeremy is a documentary filmmaker, and he is a documented filmmaker. I mean, that's what he does. The fact that he's gotten wrapped up in UFOs is somewhat orthogonal, right? Though it is something he clearly has passion for. And essentially, he is the one that produced the Bob Lazar documentary. He's the one that has become the kind of self-proclaimed protege of George Knapp. And no, I'm not jealous. And he's essentially been a very vocal and a very aggressive and a very abrasive vocabulary person. and so he's been a little rough around the edges, and he got involved in the whole Storm Area 51 thing, and he's just, and because of his attachment and his self-proclaimed loyalty to Bob Lazar and Bob Lazar's story, Jeremy becomes a lightning rod for all of that back and forth.
Okay, so the fact that he's back in the media again, there were some questions last year when he was in the media where he was given some UFO videos that were claimed to be, UAPs from hovering around United States Navy ships. And I believe there were 4 videos. The first 3, the Pentagon claimed as real UAP, that they didn't know what they were, but the 4th, the Pentagon refused to claim, which technically, in my opinion, looked like helicopters hovering with their lights flashing in the background. This gentleman is, he is very bombastic, and I mean that in a positive way. He's very passionate about the subject, but you get to social media and it gets, the minute Jeremy Corbell's name is mentioned, it gets, if you want to start a quick fight on UFO Twitter, you just mentioned Jeremy Corbell, and it's on.
A lot of it comes down to the fact that he has a supreme level of confidence in a bunch of things that other people have zero confidence in, and it pisses them off. And that's a lot of it. It really is. They don't like the fact that he comes on so strong, feeling so strongly about his opinions. Most people feel that you should take a more open-minded approach even to your own stuff. But when you're a documentary filmmaker, that's not what you do.
No, definitely not. We're going to continue the talk here, because there is a lot on UFO Twitter going on right now, and giant arguments regarding this DIRDS report that was released with the 1,500 pages, especially with the way the experiencers are being trounced by many skeptics and people of strong opinion on Twitter right now. And I want to get your take on that when we return with the Unbiased UFO report. We have our good friend, the fedora-wearing John Hudson, here hanging on out with us. Human Carl is here in the chat room. Not to be confused with Alien Carl. We love our Human Carl. We'll be back for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio when we return. I love it when Human Carl's here. I do.
I have to say, I really think one of the good things that I've gotten out of this whole experience of interviewing, of investigating all this stuff, is that most of my instincts when it comes to video were false, and that essentially you really can't tell anything from a video without doing a tremendous amount of technical analysis. And I've always had this kind of belief that that there was a, because like when you're an artist and you're creating stuff, there's this weird point where you're shifting colors and paints where it just kind of, it'll click, and like it's weird, it'll just click, and it's like boom, that's reality. Oh my gosh, like that's how it is, and yeah, I don't know. To me, it's just the way all this is playing out. It's fascinating.
I think it's awesome.
Certainly very, very interesting.
I think so too.
I'm a little worried about. That's one thing I want to talk about. Is I'm a little worried there's going to be a backlash, but we'll see.
In regards to what?
The data in that report.
Well, I don't think so. Because everybody's literally focusing on the experiencers, right?
Did you watch that video I sent you?
Yes.
Dude, that was bad.
Well, I will save when I have to say when we come back on the air.
Fair enough.
Totally. And there's a good chance that this week's Dave 101 is going to be on that. Very, very good chance.
Mm-mm-mm. Now you said the guest you had on tonight, her book is on Kindle, you said?
Yes. $4.
I get some of the best, most amazing book suggestions from like this show and Coast and like all these other places where it's like it's amazing. It's amazing how many.
I still, man, have troubles buying a book for a tablet.
No, it's 2022 now, buddy. I'm sorry.
That
argument.
I still like having books on the shelf, man.
Okay, all right. I mean, look, I got books on the shelf, like right behind me, but I have books on the shelf where I've only read them via, audiobook or visual book on a tablet, and I only keep the hard copy for reference. Or because it's got a pretty spine. Or because it's old. I love old books.
That's the one thing I always thank my ex-wife for. And I don't thank her for much. Besides my daughter, I never read as a kid. I hated reading as a kid. And I would always, when my ex-wife and I got together, I would always see her reading books. She was always reading. And I, being a little snarky 22-year-old, what the hell are you reading for? Just watch TV or something like that. And then she told me, she's like, no, I love a good book. And she got me addicted to reading.
Well, let me just say, I'm very glad that the influence went that way and not the other way. It would have been very sad to find out that she gave up books and started slipping on TV all day.
Yeah, no, I'm very thankful for it too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I always loved books, but I was one of the people that had a stack of books that I was trying to read.
Rose is in my corner. I've never purchased a book for a tablet. It just seems wrong. I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
now you get so much more for it though, too.
Hold on, buddy. Thank you to Black Dragon ×2, Surf Jair ×3, Vaughn and Terry for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate it. Go check out our new swag at spacedoutradio.com and our store. Just click the shop button. It's all right there, including the brand new Woo hats as of tonight. And here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the Unbiased UFO Report. The fedora-wearing John Hudson returns. And John, last week when the DIRDS report came out, and we were talking about all of these experiences that the government was looking into people having. Well, I'll tell you, this has turned the Twitterverse into a battlefield once again with the skeptics, the non-believers, and those who don't trust anybody but themselves, absolutely carving this report for looking into the claims that experiencers are having. Now, the experiencers are trying to fire back, but, much like anything, when the Twitter trolls come out, there's no sense.
Well, and the thing is that, we have to remember that there's no behavior on Twitter that is new. The thing is that, it's where we see it because it's on stage, but essentially the kinds of things that people are reacting to on Twitter are the exact same things that certain groups will react to in real life. So it is a canary in the coal mine, in a way, you might say, of things that that are explosive. And the thing is, so. Oh no, sorry. Just real quick, I was going to say is that, to me, what I was saying earlier and what you just said a minute ago, just it's more and more evidence for the fact that you have people with entrenched views that have absolutely no interest in changing their views, and they're looking for are stars to put on their paper and clubs to beat the competition with. And so every time a new data set comes out, they just pour through it with those glasses on. What of this can I use to support mine, and what of this can I use to make him look bad? And they just and I think we've just gotten to this really bad place where that's what people are doing, and I think it's evident, and I think it's horrible. I think people need to really think about what they're doing.
There is a great amount of naivety when it comes from people who've never experienced the phenomena and not understanding what it's like to have something so personal and profound happen to you that it changes your entire life, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. And what we see happening here on Twitter, whether it's Stephen Green, and these are all friends of the show. Stephen Green.
That's what's the hard part, Dave. That's what's killing me, is I'm seeing people saying things that people that I liked a lot, and I'm like, whoa,
Well, you know what?
Man.
I don't mind calling him out a little bit. Michael Huntington, who's a friend of this show, been on numerous times. Okay, Stephen Greenstreet, as we said, Mick West, who's been on this show. A number of people who have been on this show who have been highly, highly offended, if we could say that, by this DIRDS report, even bringing up the unconscionable, which is the experiencer. Now, for the most part, these are people who want scientific recognition, trying to figure out how these proclamations work. They want more
Sure.
evidence. They don't want anecdotal stories, but in the meantime, I can understand the want for for real proof rather than anecdotal stories. But you know
Oh
what?
my God, yes.
The people who are experiencing this phenomena don't know when it's going to happen. They can't all of a sudden, when they're about to be taken, say to little, Mo the Gray, "Hey, Mo, can you stop for a second while I just, put my phone on record here? And I need you to move a little bit to the left. You're just out of screen a little bit. I'm only getting half your gray head." Okay. Like, you can't do that. And the naivety and the ignorance that is being shown, and this is nothing I wouldn't say to their faces, but the naivety and the ignorance that is being shown for people who never asked for this phenomena to happen to them is obtuse thinking.
Well,
It's
and
very
it is, and what's really what I find very interesting about it is that you'll see people who normally have well-reasoned minds. They have well-reasoned approaches to things, and then they will get to a topic that they immediately have so much disdain for that they drop all of their bias guards completely, and they go to all the old logical fallacies they used when they were school children, and it becomes this whole, like, personality contest, and how could you ever believe that person because he lied 6 times in 1973? Like, I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
it very much is, and I don't think it paints a very good picture. Instead of making fun of the fact that the government was looking into these experiential phenomena, how about looking at the other side and saying, "Wow, I can't believe they are taking potential pregnancies seriously. I can't believe they're taking bloody noses seriously. I can't believe they're taking concussion like syndromes seriously, or PTSD or something along those lines." Until you have had it happen to you, shut up. Shut the hell up. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's hard.
I'm going to get a little angry here for a second, because I am sick and tired of people. Where's the proof? Give me proof. Okay, you don't get proof. You don't know unless you've stood in someone's shoes who has actually had that experience, whether it's getting, needles put in your eyeballs or anal probed or whatever. We make fun of it because it's fun to make fun of it.
Well, it
Okay.
helps us deal with the fear.
Absolutely. But until you've experienced the nightmare of having, your body used without your consent for whatever it is, it's wrong. It's wrong to treat it. Look, the subject matter may be funny, okay, and very easily manipulated. And look, I'm not saying there aren't people out there who aren't trying for their 15 minutes of fame in order to make something happen. But what I am saying, John, is this: the majority of people out there who have had some sort of horrific experience with extraterrestrials would not wish this on their worst enemy. Not at all. Do you think Whitley Strieber, when he went public about his anal probing from aliens, do you think that he would wish that on anybody who criticizes him? Not a hope in hell,
No, it's
right?
actually one that tells if someone has actually either been an experiencer or has done enough research. Is they hit that tipping point where you realize that if assuming abductions are real, you would not want that, right? There's not a shiny fun thing that gets described by people, right? It's a very different perspective from the fantasy, Now, and the thing that's hard, Dave, is that well, I completely understand your sentiment, and I think it's very justified. The problem is that that is the whole reason why personal stories have no place in science, because it's impossible for anyone telling their story to not take it personally, and you have a right to. And if someone is offensive about your own story, they're attacking your story, and you're going to defend it, and that's completely within your right. And that's why essentially no one should be sharing their personal stories. You should only be looking at each other's stories, because I mean, this is the whole, like, you can't go into any kind of a science environment and say, yeah, and I'm also a subject. You don't do that, right? It's like it's a very dangerous, slippery slope that we play, and so we can't evaluate data in the same way we normally would, because now we have to be concerned about offending someone or hurting someone's feelings. And let's face it, in a lot of cases, how we've offended them and how their feelings have been hurt are completely healthy and completely justified and should be respected. So how do you deal with that, right? It's a very vexing problem.
No, I understand that, but for the majority of the experiencers out there, the science means sweet nothing. It means sweet nothing, John. And I realize this is where you and I may agree to disagree, and that's healthy conversation. It really is. But for those who have, and maybe I'm putting my heart out there a little bit too much because I am an experiencer myself, as you know. Okay. But look, how many times do you have to be called as an experiencer a liar? Okay, you got podcasts now out there. Anybody who's had an experience, liars all over UFO world. Okay, you weren't there. You weren't there. I've been called out many a times in our own chat room here, John, for people trying to say to me, "Hey, stop talking crap about what happened with you and that Samantha lady." Oh, really? I didn't know where you were in the bushes with us.
Now, this is why I said what I said. This is why the stuff that Jay King and other guys are doing is so important, because essentially we know there are good studies that have been done that show that in many cases it is the lack of belief by their trusted people that do more harm to victims of sexual assault than the actual act itself. It is the fact that you are not believed that does the most psychological damage to not only yourself, but the way you view all of your relationships. So it doesn't matter what the subject matter is. You have an experience like this. This is now the world you're exposed to. And we want to talk about that in the context of UFOs and Twitter? Come on. I mean, that's just not realistic. This is not a subject. This is not fair to people. No one can do that well.
But the story is they're looking at it. You can't poo-poo the story just because you don't believe in it. It's like what we complain about with the Bigfoot community, where this is a monkey, this is the great ape. Okay.
Yes. Oh no, dead on.
You cannot eliminate the process, and the process of the paperwork from the Pentagon says this is what people are allegedly having happen to them, and we are looking into it. That's the story. Making fun of the fact that they're looking into that or where the sources came from is irrelevant.
Oh,
it's
irrelevant. So well said, Dave. Yes, and even I just now got myself so caught up about the emotion that I was doing it myself. You're dead on, and the thing is that if you really think about it, if you think about some of those periodicals that were mentioned that people are making fun of, those were valid sources for certain subgroups, and so if they had not been looking at them, it would have been bad science. They had to have been evaluated, and if they evaluated them and didn't include them in their references, then they're violating research ethics. So the fact that they're all in there is a good thing. I know everyone likes to poke fun, but it's actually a very good thing. It means they did their job.
I would agree. But follow the story for what it's worth. Your opinion means nothing. And whether it's Stephen Greenstreet or Michael Huntington or a number of, I don't want to call them trolls, because they're not. I think they bring a lot of meaningful debate to the subject.
No, they just get emotional. Okay. I mean, it's very human.
But you cannot shut down what is happening to people. The story is, like I said, I'm sounding like a broken record here. The government is exploring this information, and we should all be shocked to find out that it actually went public, like you and I talked about last week. Instead of making fun of this crap and saying, well, look at the waste of time and money this is. What science is there? They're using the National Enquirer or an article from Penthouse on a person who is an experiencer. Like,
that's
wait,
the thing. Is it?
you're being petty.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the whole idea that you can draw conclusions from this is so immature. I mean, because let's face it, they didn't, and they had the full data set, right? So we're getting a subset of that data set, and everyone's trying to say all this should be doing. Realistically, those 1,500 pages really should be a sampler buffet, right? Like when you go to like a beer place and they bring you a sampler of drinks, right? This is hey, look, these are all the places you should now go actually dump real money and real people and do some real research on, right? This isn't the end point. These are the beginning points for this research.
John, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you were absolutely nailing it on the head there, and great work. And I think we got time for one more subject here that you had brought up. This was, that was the final part of it, was the ugly part of UFO Twitter. Yeah, we will get to that. The fedora-wearing John Hudson, very much appreciate you coming on in once again for another emotionally based, emotionally charged, unbiased UFO report. We will talk to you in a couple of nights' time. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. All right, let's get to Shirky Poo's news. This takes some cojones to be this kind of gangster. Police in India were seeking to arrest members of a gang who dismantled a 60-foot-long iron bridge and likely sold it off in parts as scrap metal. Yeah, who does this? That's brazen. The robbers, posing as government officials attached with the irrigation department in the eastern state of Bihar, used gas cutters and earth-moving machinery to break down an abandoned bridge in the Amiwar village, about 150 kilometers south of Patna, the state capital. The selling of scrap metal can be a lucrative business in India, where cases of theft of metal parts from public property to sell in large unorganized scrapyards for quick cash have been common. A police officer said residents assumed that the government officials had decided to dismantle the old bridge, built over a water canal some 3 decades ago, as it was not in use. Villagers had previously submitted an application to the irrigation department to dismantle the bridge themselves. People came with heavy machinery, gas cutters, and worked for 2 days during the daytime to dismantle the bridge. Gandhi Chowdhury said, a local villager. Locals asked those working about their identity and were told that they were hired by the irrigation department to dismantle it. Earlier in the week, the scrap metal was loaded into a vehicle and the site was vacated. Yeah, they are now trying to track down the gangsters who cleaned up the river and sold the steel metal for nefarious reasons. All right, moving on. Here we go. Deputies down in Florida were shocked to discover, amongst other things, a baby alligator in an open plastic tub in bed of a black pickup truck they pulled over in Naples. According to the reports, there was allegedly 2 guns and drugs in the vehicle as well, of course. Deputies pulled over 31-year-old Michael Marola of Naples after they were recognized the driver from previous law enforcement encounters as having a suspended license. Bad, Michael. Police said Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission was told about the baby gator, and wildlife officers responded to investigate. It's illegal to take live American alligators from the wild without a valid alligator trapping license. According to the website, Marola was charged with 2 counts of carrying a concealed firearm. Guns were allegedly discovered under the driver's seat and in the glove compartment, as well as 2 drug charges, and, of course, multiple loaded syringes inside his jacket, which tested positive for meth. Who knew? You think you know someone. All right, let's move on here. A Florida student has some big decisions, and if you're a parent of this child. Wow. I mean, you know, we hear so much crap coming out of Florida about Florida man and Florida woman. This one is a good one. And God bless this kid. Seriously. A Florida student has some big decisions to make after being accepted to 27 colleges and universities and amassing over $4 million in scholarship offers. 18-year-old Jonathan Walker said he's narrowed his secondary education choices down to 27 schools, including Harvard, Yale, and the University of Pennsylvania, which he was surprised when he received acceptance letters to all 27. It's so crazy to think about that I applied to all these colleges and I got in. That's such a rare thing to occur, but the fact that it did happen, I'm very excited about. Walker, who's already been earning college credits through the International Baccalaureate program, that's why I didn't go to Ivy League, credited his essays with helping him get acceptance letters from the schools. Every campus has something special about it. So I find that I love something within them all, he said. You know what? This kid is a brain, and good on him. Good on him. 27 universities. I was lucky to get into one. And finally here, a skydiver miraculously survived a 13,500-foot fall after her leg got tangled up in her parachute. Yeah, this happened to 35-year-old Jordan Hatmaker of Virginia Beach, and she did her first ever skydive in 2015, fell in love with the sport, and she decided to train for her license, which would enable her to jump on her own, which she did. But last year, on her 16th jump, something went very bad. Her leg got caught in her chute. It was suspended in the air. She fell at 125 miles an hour with nothing to slow her down except the ground, and she survived. Yep, she's now making it out of hospital. She's going to be able to walk again, and she says, yeah, I'll go back up. Why not? And I'll go hike Everest as well. Good on her. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. For those counting, 9 days till Vegas now. 9 days. 9 days to Vegas. Do. John had to leave. I think he's got his daughter with him. So he stepped out. Do. Hey. Let's get this sucker loaded up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Almost there. Mm-hmm. Go like this. Bring those over here. Bring this one over here. Go like this. Look over here. Bobby Broadway. I got no time, man. I have no time to play guitar. Oh, good levels tonight. Good. They aren't hot.
And you know, to kind of come to terms with all of those. So it was a lot of things.
Well, for you, not hot. Good. Any questions? Let me know. What am I doing? I am editing the radio show. That's what I do at this time of night. I edit the radio show. Anytime, Magnus. That's why we're here for you, buddy. That's why we're here. Thank you, Robert Garcia. First time all day I've had my hair down. Mr. Gray Owl, you've been on a roll all night. You've been on a roll all night. Hey, it's Little Johnny Music. Give us an update on how tight your beard and hair combination is. You just can't slip in and out like that, my friend. No. We need an update. Unless he's already logged off. Philip Baca, how you doing, man? Yeah, my hair is ready to go to Vegas. That's for sure. Hey, we are looking for someone who could edit videos and put videos together. If you have experience with doing that, we would appreciate chatting with you. We are looking for somebody for videos to help us out. So please let us know. I'm looking, Super Duke. Weird. I don't know where I'm going to be supposed to be looking here, man. Oh, right there. Okay. Weird. In 2 seconds here, people. Right there. D Swagger, you edit videos? Yeah, don't message me on MeWe. Send me an email at Dave at spacedoutradio.com. Jessica's making sure my hair looks good for Vegas. Thank you, dear. Are you going to be joining us? Duke, I did see the picture. I'm just not sure where to be looking. Hey, it's little Jimmy Goodall. There he is. Little Jimmy Goodall. There he is. Thank you, buddy. We'll see you in 9 days, Jim. 9 days. Oh, Justin, what's happening? You're back. Boy, I needed you like another foot fungus. How are you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll be back, guys. Yes, I was talking to you. I'll be back. Good thing. Come on, big man. Now, you cats are playing good with that ball of yarn, weren't you? I hope so. All right, let's put these ones in here. No. No, you can't. We can take a look at Namibia. Hold on a second here. Started. See what's happening in Namibia right now. Oh, there's just a bunch of birds there right now. Let me just get some of these downloads started here. Let me see what else I can find here. Namibia is kind of boring right now. Live. Let's go live. Let's try Black Eagle. What's happening here? They're not in their nest. Let's see. Tembe. Anything happening in Tembe? Just a couple of springboks in the background. Rosie's Pan. Anything happening in Rosie's Pan? The other day, there was a big water buffalo in Rosie's Pan on the weekend. That was kind of impressive. Let's go to Tau. Nothing happening in Tau. Except some yellow flowers that have bloomed. See what's happening at Cat Eye. Probably nothing. Of course, they never have anything happening there. Nothing really happening yet. Namibia, still nothing. I think there's something walking in the background there, though. Hard to say. Oh, Paul Hynek. Nothing. Damn birds. Mid-South Sasquatch, how are you? You're killing me, Mr. Gray Owl. Are you coming to Vegas, Jessica? Are you coming to the Vegas party? Oh, there's a beautiful goshawk that just flew in. Two seconds here. No, we're not doing name tags in Vegas. Well, you totally should then, Jessica. If you want to, then come. You only have 9 days. Hello, Phil Minervino. How are you, buddy? We wish you were coming to Vegas, too. Oh, I'm getting the update here. Am anything good? No, nothing good has come through. Knight Rider, you know that's going to happen. You know there's going to be watchful eyes all over the Golden Nugget, making sure that I'm not eating breakfast foods for dinner, which I won't, because I don't do that craziness in life. It's true. God, this chair really makes it look like I have no neck. Shoulders up like this. I swear I do have shoulders. And I do have a neck. Somewhere underneath this hairy beard. I will be trimming my beard. I'm pulling white hair out of it. Water Lily, good morning. All right, let's go like this. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap it up for tonight because I'm just not feeling 100%. I want to say a big thank you to our good friends, Black Dragon ×2, Surf Jer ×3, Vaughn and Terry for the awesome super chats tonight. Thank you so much. A big thank you to all of our new subscribers. We're well past 16,100, moving on up, getting closer to 20,000 each and every day. And a big thank you to all of you out there for giving us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, for hanging on out. Tomorrow night on the show. Oh, goodness, I accidentally erased it. Hold on, I'll go to the website. I'll tell you here momentarily. Tomorrow night on the show, Mark Brenner is here searching for supernatural answers. Try and figure out what's going on there with Mark. And, yeah, be a good time. Be a very good time. See you tomorrow night, everyone. Thank you for coming on in. I apologize if I'm not 100%. I'll try and be better for tomorrow.